That's on American.
Go, Dave.
Because he hasn't seen it?
Meeting called to order Tuesday is January 23rd, is now 7:17 PM. Town Council meeting in Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Here,
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There is a quorum. Discussion, action, vote of Town Council. Any matter on this portion of the agenda may be acted upon by way of topic discussion and action by the Town Council with a vote on the record to approve, amend, deny, or table the agenda item. Ordinance 2021, second reading, sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico. An ordinance amending Appendix C traffic ordinances of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the resolution, the ordinance.
I second.
Move and second, discussion. Again, this is just, we went over this last meeting as our first reading. The wrong way, do not enter was approved by the safety committee, and also the stop sign in Nottingham and Crossbow. Anybody else have any questions on that? Any public comment on that ordinance? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
yes,
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Consent agenda, license application, resolves that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Just want to go over a couple of things. I've had some requests from the council members that they would like to move the two licenses of,
I could make a motion.
that's what,
Okay, yeah.
once I discuss it.
Okay.
Of the Brawl for It All and the circus. So if somebody wants to make
I'm
a
gonna make,
motion to separate them.
I have a question on another license as well. Just for clarification, it'd be a third one. Should I mention that now?
If you want, we have to, because we can make a motion to move all three if we feel necessary.
Okay, and I'm just a little unclear. It's on the Plaza Apartments, which is located at 81 Brookside Avenue.
Where is it on here as far as?
It is,
it's the top of the
second-
page.
no, top of the page, second, yep,
Okay,
rooming house.
Renewal.
yeah.
what's your question on that?
Well, I'm reading through the inspections, and right after the application, there is a field inspection notice for rooming house, a renewal application, and then there's an email from the assistant fire marshal that says the Plaza Apartments at 81 Brookside Avenue was inspected today. And today meaning Tuesday, December 31st, and in capital letters, is not approved at this time. Minor issue, needs to replace side door, exit sign, and add remote exterior head, yours and fire safety. So if it's not approved by the fire inspector, is anything been done between,
So-
that we know of between then and now?
So to answer your question, even though we approve the licenses, it's still based upon police, fire, and tax approval also. So every time we approve a license here, it still has to go through the police and fire and the building official's office and the tax assessor's office to make sure that they're up to date. We're just approving it so they can move forward with their,
It'll be issued after the fact.
after everything. So if the fire marshal found an issue, before they can get their license, they'd have to come in and get the fire marshal to sign off on that license.
Okay. Yeah, I like to think this is in here for another reason. I don't know, but,
Oh.
you know, I've never seen this before, that's why this just stuck
If you
out.
wanna move to table it, or you wanna ask the chief if he knows,
Yeah, I feel more comfortable.
I don't know anything about Brookside Avenue off the top of my head, so.
Wanna-
I'd feel more comfortable
We'll table that
tabling it
one.
myself
Okay, make a motion.
until we figure, I'll make a motion to table this one.
well, first off, why don't you amend the master plan to take it down, and then hit each one of the three with whatever you wanna do.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to have a separate vote for 81 Brookside Avenue, Brawl for It All, and the Garden Brothers Circus.
Second.
Move a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna,
Now,
I'm gonna recuse myself from
No, there's
from the ones that aren't these three. Are you gonna do those first?
We're gonna do those three first, so.
Do these three first? Okay, okay.
Jay?
So I'm making a motion to table the license for 81 Brookside Avenue, the Plaza Apartments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So that has been tabled. We'll do the circus next. So if somebody, again, we're on discussion for circus. I know, Laura, you raised your hand.
There's just something, I need to remove the recycling one. Marion knows that one.
The recycling event, which is,
All right, we'll go on to that one in a minute.
I'll make a motion to discuss the circus.
Yes. Go ahead.
Second.
Motion for circus, discussion. Again, this is something that's been at the Civic Center a few years in a row now. It's part of their yearly revenue, and it's a tough situation. I know some people don't like the circus, but I'll be honest, if we don't have it, it's somewhere else. Families do enjoy it.
Did the group, Laura, did the people from the circus who applied, did they follow the correct procedure?
Yes.
And you have all the insurance like you have it with
Yeah.
everyone else? So were there any issues last year when the circus had come?
There was, I mean, weren't,
There
there
was
weren't,
there was a lot of talk about, cruelty to animals and all that, but when they were here, was there any issue?
No, I mean, there's a guy that literally sleeps with the elephant.
didn't, at some point, were they trying to charge for parking for a brief time?
That was.
Last year?
That was one
Yes.
issue.
That was one
They were
issue.
trying to charge
Yeah.
for parking. Is that gonna happen again this year?
No.
So, and there was an issue regarding the use of bull hooks, which is not allowed here
No.
in the state.
Right from the very first year, we made sure with,
And we will make sure, and we'll have someone on detail. How does that work?
yep, they come through, the police are there, there's police there, there's fire there, everybody walks through. They usually, every year since they've been here, someone does call the state veterinarian. They do come out quite a few times. And I think the only thing that they've come across over the last few years is that one horse didn't have its rabies shot, but that was only because it was going back to Florida and it had just expired. So that was the only thing, and they paid for it right there and then and got the rabies shot.
And what is our revenue? Do you take each of these events and do
Yes. Yeah, so
Um,
they pay a little bit more. So they pay about $10,000 just to the Civic Center itself.
Okay,
So then they also pay, in the area, between $1,500 and $2,000 to the fire, the police, and they also pay for a license for the clerk. So it's not only the Civic Center that's, gonna lose the revenue, it's also the police, the fire, and the clerk's office.
and once
for
the
license.
event is over with, do we actually come up with an income statement, if you will, as to how profitable it was, showing revenue and expenses, so we know
Yes.
how much money?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, and they
so-
pay upfront.
No,
Before
but do
anything-
we have
Yep.
that in our records? We do?
Yep.
Okay. And we do
Yep.
that for all events up there?
We do it for the major events
Okay.
like these.
Okay.
So I do have it, and I mean, if it's something that you'd like,
Okay.
I can send it over to you. I mean, I've
Okay.
done it for quite a few years for the Brawl for It All and for
Okay.
the circus, and it was more or less for my own self to figure out what made more sense, if it was, full-timers on overtime, part-timers, a full-timer with a part-timer on overtime, just that kind of, at the end of the day, just
It would
finding out
probably
what's
be
the best
helpful for
practice.
us to see as a group and for the public
Yeah.
to see that, yes, this is a profitable thing. This makes
Right.
sense for us.
Yeah.
We do make money on it. We do make sure that the animals are treated correctly. We have someone go in and take a look and make sure there are no bull hooks.
Just- Can you turn the volume up on that?
Oh, is it me? Probably.
No, they just can't hear anybody talking back there.
There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can I comment?
You may.
As I said last year, I will be voting no this year. I know it brings in revenue, I know we haven't had any issues, but the animals still are in captivity. As someone who's worked hard to pass ordinances in this town to actually benefit the animals of this town, I can't vote for it. As I said, I actually reviewed the tape from last year, and one of the comments I made was, because someone had said it was cute to see the animals walking across the field. These are plains animals. They don't belong in the field at the West Warwick High School. So I will be voting no.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, and I know that we've sent the chief up there to check. I'm sure that they're not using the bullhooks here, but that doesn't mean that it's not being used anywhere else, and that's my concern. I voted for it in 2017, but not the past 2 years. I'm not going to vote for it today. I think I've stated multiple times why I don't want it. I understand that it brings in money, but I think at the end of the day, what's the price, for the animals? So I'm gonna vote no again.
Any other comment for Lori or questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Three to two. It passes.
Just stay.
What's that? And Brawl for It All. Want to make a motion for Brawl for It All? While Lori's up here.
I'll make a motion to discuss the Brawl for It All number 7.
I second.
Moving second. Lori, again, we've had this, 2 years now?
This would be the third, yes.
Third event.
Mhm.
Any issues?
First year, yes,
First year?
yes.
We had a snowstorm another year that caused a lot of havoc up there too, but
I think that was the same year.
same year, okay. How
So-
about last year?
None?
So, same question, I assume there's detail that,
Mhm.
we don't pay for, it's in addition to, and
Yep.
what is the fee that we receive from this one?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can definitely
Okay.
send it to you and you can go over all the details. And again, same thing that I do, figuring out what makes more sense.
I assume that they work with the police chief and fire chief
Yep.
to determine the number of people that have to be on duty at any given time?
So my plan moving forward with bigger events such as something like this is that everyone's going to sit down in the same room together
Mhm.
and we're gonna discuss what can, can't, what's good, what's bad, what's everything in between, and get it all so everybody stays on the same page.
My understanding is this event now is being geared a little bit more towards families, where we're using younger fighters from local karate schools and things to that effect. Is that
Local
accurate?
boxing,
Local boxing?
Yeah.
They've done that.
Yeah.
For the
Is that
previous
the
events.
Yeah.
same way?
Yeah.
I understand, Ernie, I'm gonna put you on the spot, that you attended one a couple of years ago, you attended this event. Sorry.
Well, let me clarify.
You weren't in the ring.
No.
Yes.
No, God, no.
No, yes, sorry.
No, I was walking around on the inside, outside, just seeing what was going on, talking to the officers. And, interesting group of people go to those things. But when I was there, it was fine, no issues. But it was just to see what it was like, because you hear a lot of things, about that type of facility. I've never saw one. So I left before it started, but it seemed like it was well organized. The police were there. The crowds, again, interesting group of people go to those, but I didn't observe anything out of the ordinary that would be a problem, at least my observation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you won't be on the undercard this year?
Oh, no.
All right, okay.
Keep it up, you might be.
I fully support the nature of this event in the sport of boxing and the reasons, I really value the reasons why this event has started. I've done a lot of reading about it. But it's like I said last year, I just disagree with having alcohol on town property. I always have. And if the alcohol isn't part of it, I'd be the spokesman for it. But if it comes to all together, then I can't vote for it.
And I guess a question on that, the alcohol, that's a license that we don't necessarily issue, do we?
It's a state license.
So,
State license issued through the Department of Health, Department of Revenue, and Department of the Building DBR.
okay. And-
So
and if we were to say,
This has been challenged, and as of now, this was filed on January 17th, 2018, with the Happy Beats matter versus the City of Providence. The law of the land is that a municipal body such as yourself cannot deny the Class P license that Melanzi has and is going to utilize up there. You can deny it for other reasons, but you just can't deny it for that. Now, if you do deny it, they have the right to challenge, and again, they would use this and also the precedent that the fact that the council has passed it twice in the last 2 years against the town.
and I assume that the owner of the Class B license has to have the insurances.
Absolutely.
Do they help pay for detail? I don't know how that works.
that is something that's worked out with each one
But
of
we
them.
don't, as
Yeah,
a
we have
town, pay
nothing
for
to
it.
do- No, we have nothing to do with that. So they pay separately for the details. I mean, I get the pricing and say, before you have your event, you have to pay for this XYZ for the detail, for the fire, the police, the venue.
Okay.
So, before they even step foot to start setting up for the event.
Okay.
So everything is paid for up front.
And
However, they work it out with the Class P or
the Class P actually has separate insurance?
Yes, I actually did.
In order to have the
send it.
license, yes. They have
I
to-
have a
And
copy
it
of it.
follows along with them? How does that work?
There's usually, it follows along, and they normally get the license, and then there's a license for particular events.
So,
But all
so
that
that area is covered, so I assume we're named insured?
Right, all that information is normally provided. I believe this matter's down for March 7th, so there's plenty of time to get all that information to Lori, who then can pass it on to the council.
Not only that, I know personally the town, when we did our 100-year celebration, Kevin Malanzi actually was on the baseball field, McCarthy, and under the town's, he had his own insurance, but again, town was named, we did bring him into,
Twice, with 100 year, and then also in 2016, you had a second event too, so.
yes, that was the food truck event, I think. So we've used them individually, and this company, Brawl for It All, is using them also, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lori? Any public comment on that license?
The broken record. Same thing as last year. I just got in from Vermont, and I haven't had a chance to even look at the agenda. But we had talked about this Class P license till we're blue in the face, and it seems to be your opinion, this distinguished council's opinion, that a Class P liquor license supersedes any and all laws, ordinances, and so on and so forth. It does not. I've got enough information on that. I passed it on to all of you last January, and I think it seemed to just fall on deaf ears. Bottom line is, this is a great event, going to make a little bit of money, very little bit of money for the town compared to what Brawl for It All is going to make. I think they make a ton of money. That's the next part. But if we're going to allow alcohol, then somebody needs to go and chisel each and every one of the signs off all the town properties that state alcohol is forbidden on any town property due to ordinance, so on and so forth. There's signs, there's a half a dozen of them on the Civic Center. They're at all the ball fields. There's probably some on this building, too. They're everywhere. There's an ordinance that forbids it. Class P can't supersede a law. And the mixing it up with the story in Providence, that's apples and bananas, two totally different things, number one. Number two, last year we talked about if we have Grandma's Knitting Social that's going to rent out the Civic Center. They rent it out for $10 for the day. Is there a separate fee for something that's going to draw in a bigger crowd like this? Are we going, are we getting a ratio?
Yes.
So there's a bigger fee for something like this? Because last year there wasn't, and it was going to be discussed, and I don't recall ever hearing anything like that.
contracts separately for events.
There is. Okay.
And I think that gets back to my question about, let's see how these events work on their own. Let's have an income statement for each one of them so we know going forward.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Ayes have it, 4-1. Now we're on regular licenses, guys. Just for the record,
President
Councilman Messier is recusing himself.
Lori, you wanted to remove recycling event permit, WW Recycling and Curbside?
Yes.
So she's asked that that be, no action taken, put on the next agenda.
So I'll make a motion to table the recycling event permit that's scheduled to take place on April 25th, which is right above the Stellar Entertainment one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, that's tabled. Now need a resolution to, motion to make a resolution over here, make a motion. The longest license applications I've ever had.
I'll make a motion to discuss the remaining license applications.
Second.
Got somebody
Moving
coming up.
seconded, discussion from the council? Mr. Reed, come on up.
My license application, name is wrong, it's John Reed, DBA.
Just want to come to the mic. Just state, just for the record, just
John
know who
Reed,
you are. but state your name.
62 Andrews Avenue. My license application, the heading is wrong. They've got it as John Reed, DBA Reed's Landscaping. It's actually Reed's Landscape Construction, Inc., and I'm the president of it. So that, and it's a renewal, so I don't know how it,
Reconstruction, Inc.
Reed's Landscape Construction, Inc.
I'm just looking for the application.
It's about
Page two in the
halfway
middle.
down, Dave.
No, I'm not
No,
looking, I'm
the
looking for the
actual
actual written
application.
application.
Unless my bookkeeper submitted it wrong. and
Yeah,
then-
we just, well, we'll have the application here in front of us, I'm just looking for it. It's just that we have 100 applications
Yeah,
today.
there's a lot of them.
Can we just move it with an amendment?
Well, let's see if we can find it. I just want to see what it says on there, and then we can have them correct it.
You got John Reed, Reed's Landscape and Construction.
Yeah, what page is that on, does it say?
It's not, my stuff's not numbered.
And what does it say?
It says John Reed, Business DBA Reed's Landscape and Construction.
Is that, so your bookkeeper sent it in wrong?
Or were they at?
The
Well, he
application,
wants,
might wanna
he wants,
see.
just wants to put ink on, the only thing that's
So-
missing on that is ink.
No, it's Reed's Landscaping, or,
It's
Reed's
actually-
Landscape Construction, Inc.
Inc.
is the proper name.
right.
So just move to amend.
do you have any problem with us amending that tonight?
Nope.
All right, I move that we approve the licenses and we amend John Reed, DBA Reed's Landscape and Construction.
No.
No?
It's not John T, it's not, his
It's
No,
his
that's how
business,
it's
his
listed.
business.
I was gonna say
right.
how
He's
it
not
should
done
be
yet.
listed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
apologize.
62 Andrews Ave as Reed Landscaping Construction, Inc. Is that correct?
No, once more, is there an and in there, or just
It's
Reed
just
Landscape
Reed's
Construction?
Landscaping and Construction, Inc.
Right.
I have a
Thank you.
motion to move and amend it.
I'll make the motion.
He made the motion.
I'll
Okay,
second the
second.
motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. If you're here for licenses, all licenses have been approved, pending police, fire, building, and tax collector's office.
Resol- Resolution approving the hourly rate pay of part-time police dispatchers sponsored by Council President Goslin. Part-time non-union police dispatchers shall earn 95% of the current rate full-time union police dispatchers earn as agreed upon and spelled out in the collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Rhode Island Council 94 AFSCME AFL-CIO as amended.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Who's second, Chief? Just want to come up and explain this.
Good evening. First, I'd like to, report that our dispatchers are a vital piece of the public safety in town. They're the first contact usually our citizens have, and our officers rely on them minute to minute for the communication. So they're a vital part of our operation in providing the public safety services to our town. As a group, they've been underpaid compared to their colleagues across the state. And my proposal here is strictly for the part-timers. The full-timer municipal that are part of the unionized municipal contract, they're currently in negotiations and mediation. I do support their efforts in obtaining proper raises to make them competitive compared to their colleagues so we can maintain and attract quality candidates. Again, I'm not involved in that negotiation process, but I believe that's one group that may warrant kind of going above and beyond the standard flat rate raise that unions typically get to isolate them and put them more in line with their colleagues. That being said, my focus tonight is what I can control, and that's suggesting our part-time dispatchers, which we don't have any of. So this applies to people that we do not have right now, but we're currently in a recruiting process looking to seek to fill 2 part-time vacancies that we have. Our dispatch was civilianized back in the year 2000, and at the time their pay rate was $14.71 an hour. That was updated in July of 2006 to $15.85 an hour, and hasn't been touched since. I don't recall the last time we had part-time people, but again, we are recruiting now and hopefully going to have an eligibility list for both part-time and full-time people within the next 6 weeks. So I'm proposing that we set a rate by resolution that they would make 95% of what a starter dispatcher would make. And although they do the same job, the full-time dispatchers do have deductions off their pay for benefits and so on and so forth. So just to make it as equitable as possible for all concerned, I thought that was a fair proposal to make the hiring process a little more competitive in order to recruit and retain quality people.
Those part-time positions were in the budget, not in the budget?
They're all in the budget, however, we just haven't filled them, and we fill them on an overtime basis.
So that was going to be the question, will it reduce the overtime that's currently being paid?
It would.
And that's a competitive number in your opinion? I mean, that's pretty good for a part-time position.
Well, it would be 95% of what they're at now, which our starting dispatchers, I believe, are at $18.92. The low to mid-20s is what our colleagues in the general area are making, so it would still be below.
Part-time?
Part-timers, there's not significant difference across other agencies, but it would put them at least at a base level that would fluctuate now based on collective bargaining, as opposed to having to come back by resolution and change it all the time.
And that makes sense.
What is part-time, chief? 10 hours, 20 hours?
The two positions that we have are part-time are 16 hours a week, Friday and Saturdays, either 4 to 12 or midnight to 8.
Okay.
No. Just kidding.
And this hasn't changed in 14 years?
2006 was the last. We haven't had a part-time dispatcher in at least 6 years, but
But the number you're really going for is 95% of current dispatchers, so as that changes, it's always 95%.
correct. So, for
Right,
example,
going from
right now,
17.97.
the current dispatch is $18.92. This would make their rate $17.97 should we hire somebody this
And do
week.
you think you'll have trouble hiring?
We've had trouble hiring. Not so much for the money perhaps, but it's a very difficult job in order to multitask. It's a very, heavy responsibility.
And it's weekends, what you
And
just
it's
said.
weekends, which
Right.
isn't, so I mean, that position's more geared towards potential a retiree or another full-time
Stepping
dispatcher
stone.
that has the experience already.
Or a stepping stone.
Or foot in the door.
Could be, but I mean,
Right.
the exposure you get on a week-to-week basis, it's hard to maintain that quality and show up next Friday as strong as you were when you left Saturday, the week prior.
Good college student job. Any other questions for the chief?
No.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Resolution approving the salary of probationary police officers sponsored by Council President Goslin, an update to the salary, weekly pay of probationary police officers, non-union, effective July 1, 2020. Last update was on March 2nd, 1999 by Resolution 99-64.
Move the resolution?
Second?
Who's second, chief?
Again, for the same argument for our dispatchers, our probationary police officers' salary was set back in 1999 and hasn't changed since. This poses a problem for recruitment and retaining quality candidates. So I'd like to get much closer to reality to provide a competitive wage and make us more attractive to get the applications and also retain them once they're here. So again, with the thought of not having to bring this back, I propose doing it by resolution, setting it by percentage of the current pay of a patrol officer who's doing the same job. And, for example, while you're in the academy, in 1999, we were hired prior to going to the academy, so the previous thing had a pre-academy rate. We don't hire now pre-academy. You hired, your first day of work is the first day of the academy, so we eliminate that group. So academy attendance would be 80% of the negotiated pay. As an example, currently, that would be a little over $900 a week. During field training, you make 85% of patrol officers' pay, which would be approximately $970. And then for the remaining part of that year until you're a sworn permanent member, you'd make 90% of a
And it's
patrol
1
officer's
year?
pay. Our probation is 1 year unless extended.
Any other questions for the chief? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Resolution approving the RIRRC project grant award sponsored by President Goslin. Purchase of 2 plastic lockable lid systems, 6-yard rear loader with side doors and 54 Pepsi Blue 95-gallon carts. The purchase will be made through the Solid Waste Recycling Coordinator and initially be funded from the DPW supplies and expenses for the sum not to exceed $6,649. Receipts and project reports will be given to the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation, RIRRC, for a 50% reimbursement of approved project cost.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion? Who wants to discuss this?
Okay, so this was a grant that I put in for in the beginning of 2019, and it was approved in March of 2019. Unfortunately, the timing was just terrible. We were going, again, through the budgets, so it was tabled for a while, and then as far as then I went through a couple directors. So after speaking with John, we brought this to the table again to get this approved. Basically, this is to assist with a lot of the diversion for the town of West Warwick. The 2 lockable lid systems would be placed on the cardboard dumpsters that we have. Rhode Island Resource Recovery will reject wet cardboard, and we have 2 dumpsters that fill up so much every week. And when it's wet, we're not only losing all that diverted recycling, but now we're also paying for that tonnage. So each time that it gets rejected, which it did get rejected in December because of moisture, that's a $250 fine for pickup, and then you're now paying for the waste as tonnage. So that it would save a lot of money by getting the covers and saving the cardboard that we have. I also put in a grant for 50% of a recycling dumpster. This would be a very small dumpster located with all the other recycling dumpsters that we have in the DPW yard to facilitate recycling for residents that don't have recycling. We only do the 4 units and under. So if there are condos that don't recycle, that's the DEM that has to cover that. So the only thing I can do is make something available to them, or for residents that have excess recycling, instead of putting it in the trash, we're now diverting it and putting it into a recyclable dumpster for our residents, all the residents of the town. And then I took advantage of this grant by putting in for some more recycling carts. We need some new ones in these schools, and we also go through them. Some get lost, so this way if we need to replace them, we'll have a few extra that are covered at a 50% cost rather than the full boat.
So let me ask you, if we apply, we got this grant, and we get the 95-gallon carts, the 54, are we still able to charge for those?
You are not able to charge for I actually got approved for 30. At the time that I put in the grant, I was piggybacking off of an order that the town was putting in at the time. Unfortunately, I lost that opportunity. It is a minimum requirement. That's why there's that difference between the 30 and the 54 that we'd have to pay. So we cannot charge on the 30. But we could charge definitely. Yeah, because the town would be paying that cost difference, the full price for the 24. You'd be paying the 50% price on the 30.
Okay. No, I'm just asking because, for instance, I had that situation where the resident moved into a vacant, it was a vacant house for a couple
Right.
of years. They remodeled it. They moved in. They had no bins.
To replace them,
So that would be free
Right,
to
that
them.
would be free to
But
them
if he wanted
anyway.
additional, say he wanted 2 recycle bins, would we charge him, or what would that be? Or the 30 gonna be separate
Right,
for
we'll
other situations?
log them we'll keep them separate.
All right.
Because I pretty much have the ones that I put in for already accounted for where I wanted them to go. And honestly, maybe just a handful.
Because there's,
Would be
it's not
left.
a lot, but there are a lot of people that might need a second bin. We've had long conversations about this, but I mean,
And maybe we could use it for something,
for somebody that.
like
in
an
a certain- in
extenuating circumstance. We
absolutely,
would
yeah.
have those extra. Yeah.
This talks about the initial cost, annual ongoing costs,
Actually would be a savings.
hopefully.
Yes,
Yes?
diversion.
And we will actually get a report that says that?
Yes, you will. And I actually have till March 1st to purchase it all because it expires March 1st. So this, the receipts will come in quickly.
Any other questions for Nicole? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Have it. Thank you, Nicole.
Addition of taxes, Good. Addition of taxes resolved that the attached addition in the amount of $190.61 presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinances is hereby approved. The original list is on file in the office of the tax assessor.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Claims resolved that the town council hereby approves or denies the following claim against the town. Robert Gesoldi, 227 Legris Avenue, town tree fell on shed, previously tabled.
Move to take it off the table.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any motion to move?
Move the resolution.
Second.
Discussion, again, we were asking for, pictures this time. Looks like it pretty much destroyed that shed. The only thing, the town lot, it shows the number's not marked, but it does say town lot. And the property was happening on 227. I think that's the shaded area, that's what I think the property's on. Anybody have any other discussion on that, or concerns?
No, I guess I will say the same thing I said last time. The fact that the dollar amount's not on the agenda, does that make a difference? And
I would suggest that both of these matters be tabled, only because there's not enough information on the agenda. While the
Claims.
documents, the attached documents have all the information, but the agenda does not.
I'd make a motion to table items 7A and B then.
Second.
So we're tabling A again?
Again,
So let me, before we table this, I want to discuss, so Robert Gesoldi, 227 Chris Ave, town tree fell on shed. What more information do you want on there? The size of the tree,
Well,
I mean-
first
No dollar
first
amount on
off,
it.
the
the dollar
220,
amounts, because there's 3 different totals,
There's-
so we have to approve one of them.
first off, there's
So
no
we can't-
shed.
We can't put a dollar amount on something that's a couple of different, so we have to approve what dollar amount. Because if I'm looking here, there's 3 quotes, 3 quotes.
and doesn't the person who reviews the claim make a recommendation as to what we should be approving? Because we don't go and look at it.
There's one for $850. And I think $820
So
and $780. So what dollar, and $850. So what dollar amount do you want on here? We just can't put the dollar amount, we have to approve the dollar amount. We don't want, when we say, choose this one, then the solicitor's giving the department head grief because it makes it look like we've already chosen the individual or who we're choosing for a dollar amount.
Well, then why do we have Fred
Claims
Gill
committee says
go and do it?
780.
The claims committee says 780, it should say 780 on the agenda.
First off, there is no claims committee meeting. This is just a claim. That's
This is the Director of Public Works
Right.
as
But Mr.
then, not now, because
Mr. President, the issue with the 227 Legris Avenue, there does not appear to be a detached shed on the plat card. Even though he's making a claim that his shed on plat 27 lot 457 was there and in the Butts town property.
Well, it's
Well, that's a different issue, yeah.
Yeah, that's
a
not.
different issue.
That's not the property owner's fault. If they're doing, we have people driving out doing assessments, and if they don't see a shed, shame on them. I mean, but if the town's tree fell on it,
In a situation like this, would it be possible, maybe not in this case, obviously now, but if it's proven that the tree came from the town, or something proven from the town, could we have our department go out and do the work?
No.
No?
You just want to make sure that it's the town's liability, that's all I'm,
All right.
if the town did the work, that'd be $2,780, because they'd have to do it on overtime in certain times of the day and whatever else. So for
Prevailing wage.
$780, I think we
I'm look-
save ourselves a lot
I'm
of
looking at a
grief.
9 to noon, Dave.
I'd like to hear from the director.
Okay. Don Willett, Director of Public Works. I went out to the site last week, took a good hard look at it, and the shed is still there. You can see the holes that were punched through it by the tree. I looked at where the property line was. The shed is located about 10 or 12 feet beyond the property line, away from the town property. The town property is definitely in the back. There were 3 trees, all of them in the 12 to 14-inch diameter, that were covered with bittersweet. They're still there, so it basically choked the trees to death, and then the trees fell over. The crew went out, our crew went out, took the tree down, and chopped it up, removed it, and then they took the other 2 that were in danger of removing and removed them as well. As far as the estimate, they got 3 estimates, which is requirement from your regulations, from what I understand, and they gave, I believe they said that you have to go with the lowest estimate of the 3 for your claim. I apologize for not putting it on the agenda, but we did go out, we took the pictures. I believe I drew a diagram, I hope that got in there, where it showed the property line and everything else. This is a clear tree that fell on this guy's property, and, it's unfortunate.
And the backup that we get to look at, I agree is all there. The issue that we've dealt with is what's on the agenda, and is there sufficient information on the agenda? And it
Okay.
doesn't say an amount. I'm just pointing that out.
Okay.
We've been whacked for that before.
Does it need to say an amount, though?
should have parameters, 0, $200,500. Anything above that is going to go to the trust.
But the truth is,
You're going to approve the claim, that's number 1, and then number 2, you're going to choose the amount, so you'd be approving the claim, number 1. 2, then you'd agree on the amount. So it'd be anywhere between 0 and $2,500 if you approve the claim. If you deny the claim, you don't get to go to B.
it's extremely frustrating. I believe we should ultimately pay it. I just want to make sure we're in compliance with the agenda.
Based upon the Attorney General's ruling and what was complained about, there's not enough on the agenda.
Okay.
So
You
we
may
could
not
be,
like, you may not like it, but
so we could be doing this every week. With at
Absolutely.
least something on the agenda that's not, all right, we put A, B, and C in, but why didn't we put D? Or if we put D, why didn't we put E? So we could keep going with this every week.
Well, we need
if
to
you
make
look at the number of decisions that are coming down right now from the Attorney General's office, there's been at least 22 decisions in the last 2 months. And 9 times out of 10, they ruled against the council, or the city council, or the town council, or the board. So this Attorney General and his department are looking at these things a lot differently than all former Attorney Generals have.
And I think I'm correct in remembering that we're on the clock. We've been warned that if we continue to violate, that we are subject to fines. So why would we subject ourselves for over $780 claim that I agree we probably should pay, but I don't believe we should
Moving
discuss it.
forward, I'll make sure that we have
We
the
should
dollar
do a
amount
standard,
on the things.
Yes.
So what, for this
And the
item,
address.
number 7, claims A, what do we need to put on there to make sure that in 2 weeks, we can pass this?
First, if you're going to approve it, that's number 1. Secondly, if you're going to approve it, you can pay 0 to up to $2,500, because anything over $2,500 goes to the trust.
So what does it have to say on here?
Well,
On this
Tim
one.
say you could make it generic and say 0 to 25, but 2,500. But the backup says they're recommending 780. If it's the low bid, that's what it should say there.
Well, it could say recommend for
That's
the
right.
council to approve in this amount, and then we decide whether we want to do
Yes
it
or
or not,
no, and
right?
if it's no, we can move it and
I mean, it
change
says
the
that for
amount.
multiple things, when you recommend an appointment of some kind,
That's
and, I
correct.
mean, it's our choice.
Yes, and so let me clarify that, and Mr. Solicitor, you've given department heads a tough time for putting on there, like for appointments, the town council chooses this individual.
No,
Wait a minute, and if the name's on there, you've gone back to the department head and said, it makes it look like the town council already chose that individual, which, you're right, I'm not disagreeing with that. But if we sit here and say, and we approve the $720 one, but yet the Better Business Bureau has a sucky rating on them, and that resident comes back and says, well, I just want to give you a heads up, this individual has a bad business and they didn't show up, and now it's $850. Shouldn't the council decide, like, I know I look at some of these businesses that say they're in this town, aren't even registered in this town, so why would we even choose them?
That's why
So
you would,
that's, those are things that we gotta look at too.
right, but that's why you'd have the parameter of what you, by ordinance, are allowed to pay on claims, which is $0 to $2,500.
But again,
Can we
if Dave Goslin comes up here as a council member and does his research and says, one of these businesses are a West Warwick business, but not registered in West Warwick, whatever, we don't know anything about this business, but we're gonna approve them?
well, wait a minute,
You
so
know,
what's the,
but I can't, but then Dave Goslin says, well, the
Right.
director says, we should go with them, but I feel we should go with so-and-so.
No, that's
Can
not
we
what,
do that?
no, that's not what I said. What I said was, if the director says, I approve paying this, all right? And he recommends.
He recommends, he doesn't approve it,
recommends
he
number one. Or
recommends
he
it.
recommends number
Right.
one. And number one is $1,000.
To-
Number one's got a bad reputation for whatever reason. The council at the meeting can amend that, instead of taking A for 1,000, you're gonna take B for 1,500.
Correct.
But at least the people reading the agenda know that $0 to $2,500 of taxpayer dollars could be applied towards this claim, should the council
So if you
approve
put the
it.
number, then we have the
Right.
ability at that
That's
point
what I
to go,
mean.
all right,
So
we're gonna pay
what-
1,500 or
So
1,000.
as Councilman Licciardi said, this should say, Robert Gisoldi, and I know I'm saying that last name wrong, 227 LaGris Ave, town tree fell on shed, recommend paying $0 to $2,500. Will that satisfy the next agenda? Or am I gonna have to come back here, see $0 to $2,500, and then Paula's gonna be calling me, or Mary Ann's gonna be calling me saying, I don't know if this is enough. What is enough, and how much is too much?
Again, based upon what the Attorney General's personnel
specific
indicated
issue.
tonight, you can't be too transparent.
Correct.
So you can put it as much, so obviously who, what, where, how, when, and why. And then the council, based upon the recommendation of a director, has up to $0 to $2,500 to play with of taxpayer dollars. So therefore, if anybody says, I don't know what you're talking about, you can say, here's the claim, here's the date of the incident, here's the three recommendations, $0 to $2,500. There was a recommendation made that the council approved. If for some reason, one of the three entities has a bad reputation, the council has the right to amend it that night at the meeting.
but the fact is that we're approving payment of a claim, it's supposed to be the lowest one, it's $780 in this case. I don't care where he spends the money, I don't care if he has his Uncle Joe remove it and pays him $780, that's all we're gonna pay.
Right, wouldn't it be
Right.
name,
So-
address, reason, and amount recommended?
Correct.
But
Simple as
the
that.
amount recommended.
And it
all
could
right,
be
would
amended
have
at
to
the
be,
meeting.
As the council president indicated, you'd have to amend it. But if you leave it from $0 to $2,500, and then you look at the bids that night, you can make a recommendation. So any taxpayer or citizen out there knows that if the claim is approved, you have up to $2,500. So if they
Well,
want
then
to.
why do we have the Director of Public Works even do it then? I mean,
So you'd have to amend it to
Again, there
have
used
an
to be a
amount.
claims committee, and you don't find that anywhere in writing either. So I mean, why, I would think that the only particular person besides the town manager would direct his department head to go
Can
review
I,
it.
can I make a
Yes,
suggestion that I rewrite this on the thing and say, we received, there were three bids for $780, $820, and $825. I recommend that
Payment of
this,
the
that this
$780.
claim gets paid, and then I leave it up to you to make the decision who you go with.
Does it really, if it's on private property, does it matter who it is?
What do you mean?
Does it matter who's doing the work?
No,
Well, absolutely
no,
not.
it's the
We're
amount,
looking
it's
at
the
the numbers. We're looking at
amount,
the numbers.
that's
The
right.
ordinance just says you have to submit 3 bids, so you submit 3 separate bids from 3 separate companies. Really, the council shouldn't be commenting.
I don't care
on the
who it
company.
is, that's right,
Exactly.
it's just the
Right.
dollar
All you're
amount.
commenting on is if you're gonna
Company
approve-
ABC.
If you're gonna approve the
Or
claim,
Uncle Joe.
and then how much?
Yes.
All right, okay.
So I
Right.
think that's correct, that it just should say the name of the name, the address of the property, what happened, and what the amount is being recommended by the person
Right.
who actually reviewed the claim.
Right.
End of story.
Okay.
Assuming they're following the ordinance.
All right, so I have a motion to table both these.
Second.
No, I already did. Somebody already got a motion in a second, that's why I went into discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Did table.
Again, frustrating, I apologize, but
Finance Director's report, Finance Director will review the expense and revenue reports as of December 31st, 2019 for the town's general fund and Civic Center Enterprise Fund. The audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 will be discussed. The Finance Director will respond to questions of the town council and town manager.
Good evening, councilors. Current year tax collections to date total $37,139,009, which is 57.27% of the budget for current year taxes. Collections continue to trend ahead of target. Prior year tax collections to date total $529,004, which is equal to 35.27% of the budgeted amount. As I've mentioned before, this line is adjusted at the beginning of the year to reverse the 60-day accrual from the prior year, and it generally increases closer to the end of the year with the tax sale. Overall, the projected revenues are at 53.95%, which is higher than expected for 6 months into the fiscal year. And overall expenditures are 43.86%, which is lower than expected 6 months into the fiscal year. All or most of the operating budgets are trending at or below the expected 50% expended. The Civic Center is right now has a surplus, but is trending towards breaking even once a lot of the year-end expenses are recorded for wind turbines and other expenses, but it is trending towards breaking even this year. Cash flows continue to improve with the successful implementation of Lockbox. The general fund balance as of 1/13/2020 is $14,823,754.95. A quick note on budget. By ordinance or by the charter, I need to get to you the department requests by the first Monday in February, which is February 3rd. So just remember, this is the department requests. This has not been.
Don't panic.
Right. This is not the Ernie version.
So
you
is
know.
this gonna go to us prior to going to Ernie?
So Ernie has seen it,
requests?
but he hasn't made his
Right,
changes.
these are the department requests for their regular budgets and their capital. So again, the capital's gonna be very large, what's approved will be less. So, when you review it, you can see their rationale and the costs. But again, the budget will be changed when you receive it in March.
All right.
I'm sorry.
So we're gonna get, all right, just to make sure, we're gonna get the department head requests like normal in February. You're gonna look at those as well, you're gonna make all your changes, you're gonna give us the same budget with your changes on,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Yeah, so if you know, so you
So-
remember, there's 3 columns. There's department, and then
Right,
there's
right,
manager, and there's council.
Okay, at the beginning of March, Ernie? Do you know, for yours?
The date, yeah, that's the third. I think so.
I want to say it's the middle of March, I don't have the
think he
timeline
gave
with
us-
me,
he gave us
but
the
it is
timeline.
March,
Yes.
beginning of
All right.
March,
Okay.
so.
You had mentioned the wind turbine. Have we seen increases to the credits since we hired, I think
Yeah.
at the time, Green Energy, who might be Green Development now?
We have 2 contracts that we're generating anywhere from 50,000 a quarter for the 2 companies, plus there's a boatload of recs that she just called me on the other day that she's going to start selling.
So was it in our best interest?
Absolutely.
To make that higher?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's what I was gonna ask, if, I bumped into Mr. DePasquale in, Market right before Christmas. And if we can schedule a meeting, he wanted to give us an update, he was bragging and saying, we're about to sell some wrecks and do whatever, and, so if we can get a report from them within the next 1 or
Sure.
2 months, when they're available to come here, and just to give us an update of where we stand on the turbines,
And Kristen, I know that the prior year tax collections and, is adjusted. Could you give us the gross and the net, just so it looks like we're closer to, I mean, because we're only at 35%? So that 529
Yeah.
has the 60-day accrual removed? Could you just, in paren?
So what it would be if we didn't
Yeah,
record it back to the prior
exactly
fiscal
right.
year?
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, the audit has been completed and the report was issued on time. Our operating surplus was $355,393. A note for the fund balance is we made a decision to, the capital, what we discovered is the capital, the money we had for capital was being rolled into the fund balance by the prior year auditors. Probably was a decision from a prior finance director, administration, whatever. But it was housed in a different fund in our accounting system, so it didn't make sense. If we're gonna keep it in a different fund and keep track of it that way, then it should be reported that way. That way we have a designated pot of money for our capital. So we carved out that amount of money that pertained to capital and put it in the special revenue fund. So when you look at the increase in the unassigned fund balance, you're not seeing a direct correlation. You're not seeing 1.3 million increase because we carved out that portion of the capital monies that were sitting in our unassigned fund balance. Part of it was in restricted and part of it was in unassigned. I have been in contact with Bloom Shapiro to come in to make a presentation. David, I emailed you some dates.
You sent it to me this morning?
Yeah.
Pick one.
Okay.
Whatever's good for them, because we're here, it doesn't make a
Yep.
difference.
Okay, so it doesn't make a difference.
Just check with Paula, see what the agenda lengths are, and then we
Okay.
can go from there.
Okay. So I'll schedule the auditors to come in and make their presentation. Tax sale proceedings have begun. Rose is compiling the list and getting it off to our tax title company. We have extended our contract with Rhode Island Tax Titles LLC to handle all the necessary steps associated with the tax sale. The fees charged will remain the same. We have included a memo with the key dates governed by Rhode Island state law. Letters, title searches, and advertisements must be done within a specific time frame. So the tax sale will be held on Thursday, May 7th, 2020.
Any questions for Kristen? Thank you, Kristen.
Actually, Kristen, one more, just because, so, I'm sorry, yeah. So the operating surplus of 1,355.
Yep.
You are actually, is that really the number? Or
That
you're
is the
taking-
operating surplus.
But some of it's being reclassified to capital, is that
So
what you're saying?
what we reclassified was
Yes,
was the prior year unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
I mean, it's six ways, you can look at it both ways.
so the unassigned, I think I remember, the unassigned balance is $1.9 million at this point in time, and 400 in, it's not the 2.2 that we originally thought it was, is that correct?
The unassigned fund balance, I believe, is about $2 million right now.
1987,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just a quick comment, to compliment Kristen and her staff. I think there's only about maybe a third of the communities have completed their audit on time. At least 50% or more are still in process, so.
It's the first time for us in a long time, too.
So we're very pleased that, you know.
Last year, too.
Last year,
2 years in a
so,
row.
Yeah.
again,
Prior to
and
that.
that is a sign of, you know, a good staff and good accounting system that can be put together, so I just wanted to make that comment.
And the new auditors, happy? Yeah. Yeah?
they're fine.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kristen.
Directors report, the directors listed below will provide an overview of the activities within their departments during the second quarter of the fiscal year and possibly calendar year 2019. These presentations may include, but are not limited to, the following: updates on budgetary performances, projects, programs, activities, and upcoming items of interest within their departments. Directors will respond to questions from the council members and the town manager. A, Civic Center.
It's just by introduction. We started this and it sort of dropped off, but we will have quarterly reports. Usually the first two meetings of the quarter, January was, the meeting was right after the close of the fiscal year, so we couldn't. So we'll have the directors' reports this week, and the remaining directors will be the following week. And between, after the close of the quarter, between two council meetings, we'll have all the directors give their reports to the council. Some of the departments keep their statistics on a calendar year basis. That's why some of them are reporting it in that way as well. Thank you.
Laura?
Hi. I don't know, do you guys have a copy of it, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
Does everybody-
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, everything is pretty much where it should be at this point. I mean, there's a lot of fixed things that there's nothing I can do with there. The rentals are coming in really good. The ice rink is doing better than I even hoped that it would actually do. With it being open spring, summer, and whatnot, and we have some really good leaks in there and whatnot.
Lori, how is the summer rentals for ice?
We have, during the week, we are fully booked. So we have rentals during the day that start out at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they go all the way till 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. The weekend, a lot of people in the spring or in
Now,
summer
is that
playing
the
baseball.
season or is that the summer?
That's the spring and summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lori, I know you're ahead there. You think you're gonna catch up on field house rentals?
Yes. Right now is the busiest, obviously. So the way the ice rink works is like August, September, October, they start right away in the ice rink. And field house, they're still outside, and they try to stay outside as much as they possibly can. But now that it's colder, so November, December, January, February, March, they're all inside. And everybody thinks that they're going to get out on the baseball field April 1st, and it doesn't ever happen. So
Never
April, they'll still be inside, even though they're all planning to be outside.
The leases, budgeted 36,000, but only at 9,000,
So the leases were written for 6 months,
okay?
and the increase did not come into play in it, but now they are. So it should catch up. It will not reach the 36, though.
Okay.
But, I mean, between the summer camp and the ice rink doing better, it'll even it out, so.
So bottom line, do you think our revenues will meet the expenses?
Yes, I would like to say
Okay.
yes, but if you turn the page and we go on to my staffing, that's where we run into will overtime.
But those are things that we knew. I mean, so at this point, are you projecting a break even? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm hoping to break even as
Well,
long
we're always
as
hoping
the.
to break even, but,
Yeah.
yes.
It's the overtime that's gonna, right now, we have a vacant second shift position, which is a union position that does need to be filled by a union employee. So every time that there's something at night, on Saturdays, a union person has to come in and fill that position.
Have we advertised that position? I know the individual moved on that was on their second
Right.
shift, so if we advertise that position, what are we waiting for?
Good point. Check.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, instead of sitting on 6 months of overtime,
Correct.
why are we not advertising this position and getting somebody in here? I mean, there are people out there looking for decent jobs. I mean, it's not,
Don't we have the ability to flex that schedule anyway?
no, not with quarter, because the position's vacant. So there's no flex on that. Because it's in the contract, so they fulfill it with whoever. It could be Parks and Rec, it could be DPW, whoever's available. So those individuals are coming in on overtime. So this person's been going now, I think, almost 4 weeks. So I don't know why we have not put this out
Posted.
and post this
Should be
position, whether it's
posted, yeah.
internal, external,
Yep.
but it's time to post this position, so we get it filled. I mean, it's not a rocket science position up there to fill. It's not like you need somebody with 4 years of college education you know, it's a maintenance position. So why not get it filled? There's college kids home, there's high school kids, there's whoever looking for jobs right now. Let's get it out there.
I'm a little concerned with the money we haven't collected. So I'm looking at this as a midway point, six months through. Zero from, and some of it may not have reported yet, but zero from marketing income. And-
All the bills go out in January for them. So all the renewals will go out and everything, and that will just come in, so.
So at the end of the year, so
Yeah.
this zero means that doesn't
That
mean
means
anything.
nothing right now.
It's just timing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Just it doesn't make sense to do it at a different point of the year, so.
Okay.
I try to get them as much exposure as they can, if they're gonna pay for it.
And by the way, when I said rocket science, it's meant that it's not rocket science to post this position instead of paying overtime. I just want to clarify that. I mean, it's basic needs of the business here.
Hey, as long as we come in at 704, 980 at the end.
No,
Well, again, if you look at the overtime,
For revenue and expenses.
we're already over.
Revenue and expenses, yeah.
Yeah, well, if we look at overtime, we're already
Yeah.
over. And if that's gonna sink it, let's get it fixed.
Correct.
Said that for 3 years.
And it's just basically scheduling. That's really what it comes down to there.
But if there's
I
a
sound
position
like a
that will
broken
help
record, that
alleviate
I-
the overtime, it
Yeah.
should be filled as soon as possible.
You know, I've said it,
Again, the union has always, if it's in the contract, we're pretty much obligated to fill that position. And why are we waiting on it is the question. Just, you know, I understand we're shorthanded with HR and all that right now, but I mean, it doesn't take much to put it out in Indeed or wherever to get those applications, and we'll get, I'm sure somebody will fulfill it.
Doing it right now.
So I have one more question. And Lori, I read your report. I believe this is on page 2. That we have a position where a person is out on workman's comp. And I want to say it's been almost going on 2 years now.
18 months.
Is this like an unlimited where we're on workman's comp for the next 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years?
Ernie?
Statute, you can only 6.
Are we checking to see if that person is able to do the job again, or?
But that's, again, that's one of the responsibilities we have with, you know, our insurance carriers, our workers' comp administration. So they review the cases, they continually monitor progress, and they would recommend when a time should be to either negotiate a settlement or move towards some type of a retirement situation. So, to answer your question, it is monitored, it is reviewed by the Interlocal Trust Workers' Compensation Administration.
When's the last time, 18 months, I can understand, I don't know what happened, I don't know what the issue is, but if it's like a broken bone or something,
And generally, there could be times where, I won't say this time, but there could be times where there's negotiations going on for settlements. So, you know, there's a variety of things, but I understand your question. But
Because
there's a
it's
process.
It's a cost right now that we're incurring,
Mhm.
and which, I'm sure Lori's goal is to meet the 704, 980, or exceed that in revenue, and deduct that in expenses.
Oh.
And if that's limiting her from doing that, it's not fair to her, because that puts it all on her.
Well, what happens is that's being paid through the workers' comp premium, but that position has to be filled by someone in a higher class. And then that person's position has to be filled, as we said, by another individual, first offered within the town's employment. So I just made a note to check on
Is that
that.
an executive session? to
No,
talk-
no,
talk about
well,
that
no,
in
that's,
executive
no,
session?
Be specific, what do you want to talk about?
That somebody's been on workman's comp for 18 months and
That's
hasn't.
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
You may have to notify him.
That's fine, I just want to figure out, we could be talking about this 3 years from now, you know?
The statute, you have a workers' comp, you go up to 6 years before things really get cut off, depending on the injury.
It's a long time.
That's a statutory right.
It's a hell of a long time, depending on what it is.
Since you don't know what.
That's right.
That's right.
I don't know anything.
Don't guess.
No.
Again, I know we have to advertise it internally first, but let's get it filled. and advertise for whatever position's available. If nobody puts in for it, advertise for that. Any other questions for Lori?
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Building, zoning, and minimum housing?
Good evening. I reviewed our fiscal performance for the, should say, second quarter of fiscal year 2019 through 2020, and we are at 51.4% remaining. Total revenue for October through December of 2019 is $67,114. The second quarter of 2018 through 2019 was a decrease of $12,742.27, which is a 5.2% decrease. Open fee money collected was $10,000. There's a $2,500 fee for each condo or new home that is being built. Ongoing projects, Madison Ridge condos, there's 119 condos being built there. Orchid Farm condos, 69 North Pleasant, 5 permits have been issued for duplex-style condos. 4 condos have received COs. There will be a total of 23 condos. West Glen Cottage, West Glen Lane, all permits have been applied for. 7 units have received COs. A total of 8 condos are being built. Villanova, 550 Wakefield Street, there will be a total of 17 condos built. The permit for the first duplex has been issued on November 20th, 2018. They're just waiting for final inspections. Quaker Lane condos, 101 Quaker Lane, all permits have been applied for and issued. There will be a total of 12 condos. 3 units have received COs. Hilltop Estates condominiums, Lily Lane, permits for the first 2 buildings have been applied for. There will be a total of 52 condominiums. There are currently permits issued, applied for, built 2 single-family homes, and 2 homes have received their COs.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
As far as 69 Washington Street,
Yes.
I know the first unit is fairly well framed and it looks like it's moving along.
Yes.
Any basic timeline in terms of the CO for that? Are we looking at 3 months, 4 months, 5 months?
I haven't seen much progress going on since they framed it.
So I'm just curious.
Yeah. They haven't called for any inspections yet, so I really don't have any idea what their projection is.
Okay.
But they do have the 4-unit fourplex is being built, and they do have a foundation for the next 4. 100 Pulaski Street, the old mill is being converted to storage, indoor storage units. Lippert Mills has kind of resumed working there. On and off, and before I let them resume construction over there, I did request and I did receive a letter from a structural engineer because the building had sat for so long with no work being done, and it was signed off by a structural engineer. Company called Med Recyclers are renovating a portion of 1600 Division Road. A new commercial building is being built at 294 Coeisa Avenue.
You got Villa has sold on
Oh, yeah,
front end.
yeah,
Um,
finally.
Understanding, are they knocking that down?
Yes. I spoke to Mark Carrillo about it.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of questions.
That's all I'm asking, because somebody
All right.
asked me.
Nobody has applied for a demo permit yet.
He had told me, and this is what I can say, so I haven't said anything yet, but he had told me that the villa has been sold. It was a company, I don't know that, I forget the name, company out of Mass who bought it, and the plan is to knock it down and to put 2 retail stores in there. And that's all I can say. I don't know what the stores are. He doesn't know. But I'm sure as soon as the ball starts rolling, everybody's gonna ask questions. It'll be all over social media, so. That's all I know.
Thank you.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
On here, letter H, 20 condominium units will be built at 83 Pulaski Street.
Yes.
Is that with Arthur? Where are we, I'm trying to picture Pulaski Street here, with the new storage units going in.
Exactly right, across the street.
Yeah, it's the.
Directly across the street.
They've already begun work.
Up the hill?
That was approved.
Right, okay. I think of Pulaski, I'm thinking right on Pulaski.
Yeah, but it's still considered Pulaski back there, yeah.
Down, looking down the hill, looking towards the Crompton Docks.
Gotcha, all right.
And as far as med recyclers, when do they open?
When are they opening? They haven't opened yet. They haven't finished, they haven't had any final
No, I
inspections.
know, but you have like a general idea of when they're going to be operational?
Probably in the next couple of months,
Okay.
from what I can see. In October, my office gave out 148 permits. These are total plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and building. We did 166 inspections. In November, we gave out 113 permits, did 176 inspections. In December, we gave out 94 permits and did 135 inspections.
And is that your busiest quarter usually, Bob? I mean, because of liquor license and everything that comes up at that point? in
Yeah,
time?
that's,
Yeah.
on that point, it's really
October,
busy this
November
time.
Any questions for Bob?
I also have a minimum housing. You see my pie chart. From June to December, this report is, he did 206 inspections. The big ones are grass and weeds, vehicle violations. People complain about exterior, people's house and basic exterior of their houses. That's it.
Any questions for Bob on that?
I just say one thing.
Sure.
I dealt with Chuck quite a bit
Yeah.
over the last couple of months, and it's been a pain to him, I know that, but he's right on the money. If I call him on a
Yes.
Tuesday, by Wednesday night, if I have 5 issues, he's gonna answer to all of them.
Yep, he's
So,
very responsive.
He is,
Ditto, he is
and you
terrific.
should know that.
And he follows up.
Definitely an asset to my office
Yes,
and the whole town.
yes.
Yeah, definitely, like I said, he's very responsive,
Yes, he is.
you know, I had a situation on a registered vehicle. He went by, he talked to the residents, there was a situation where they couldn't get the keys.
Yep.
But, he went by and he told them that's no excuse. He went by again today and sent me an email saying it's all set, so.
Yeah.
Just blocking a corner.
Yeah, he does not let anything go by the wayside.
And again, I know we've gotten an email from, one of my constituents about a cross-town activity, and he got response for all of that within a couple of days. And Ernie got that back to us, and we were able to get that back to the residents, so, kudos.
Excellent.
One question I have, Orchard Farm condominiums, so.
Yep.
All matters have been resolved there, and they're able to continue construction?
Like I told you before, they've been working on their construction, and as far as the lawsuit, we have reached an agreement with Attorney Dunbar and Attorney Pagliarini. They're at peace, and I believe the planner is also, as far as what was requested and what's going to happen as far as the amendment.
So the second phase of that is all squared away?
Right, well, no, it's not squared away until it goes before planning. Planning has to approve the amended prior order that gets rid of the ingress and egress and some of the other matters.
All right.
But they're not that far yet.
Yeah.
in the
No, I
field.
know they still got a
Okay.
ways to go, but they're up
Yeah.
there jackhammering now, and I was,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But without saying what the board may do, it looks like it's going to be resolved amiably without, and then the court filing can be dismissed without prejudice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Police Department?
Good evening again. My first part of my report is the finance part, so it's the first 2 quarters of this fiscal year. The 3 accounts that I watched most recently are overtime, which we're at 45% right now with half the fiscal year remaining. This is due to replacing vacancies within the patrol division due to 1 retirement, the addition of the 2nd school resource officer that we haven't replaced yet, and 1 officer that's been deployed overseas in Kuwait and is expected back at the end of February. The next one is education. We're at approximately 25% with the spring semester bills still outstanding. We've hired many younger officers who are still working on degrees, and although I increased that line item slightly last year, it looks like we will overspend that. The final one is longevity, which we're 6% overspent. Our longevity went out in November, the first pay week in November, and that was strictly due to our pay raises that came in the collective bargaining agreement and then the trickle-down percentage increases in longevity. But overall, I believe that my fiscal 2020 budget is a responsible projection, and it should cover the police department's needs. The other accounts that I'll be monitoring closely for the remaining 5.5 months are youth center expenses, because we had some unexpected HVAC maintenance that we needed to attend to and some higher than normal gas bills. Also, my training line, with the surge of promotions and recent reassignments of many younger and less experienced officers, we had to enroll them in some schools to get them up to par in their knowledge and skills to efficiently and safely complete their task. And finally, my ammunition budget, we expect to expend all of that as we plan on certifying our sworn personnel with patrol rifles as soon as the weather breaks. Some calendar year information. First of all, on staffing, we hired 4 officers in 2018, 5 officers in 2019, and as of a couple of weeks ago, I am short 3 sworn officers, again due to retirement of Detective Timisto last August, the creation of the 2nd School Resource Officer at Deering Middle School, and a recent resignation of a probationary patrol officer. We are running a we ran a lateral recruitment drive. We have 1 candidate that's a possibility for hire. I'll be setting up an interview with that person within the next couple of weeks. And we're in the process of, by the end of this week or the beginning of next, we'll have an officer recruitment drive starting in anticipation of having some candidates ready to go to the July 2020 Police Academy. In addition to those vacancies, as I mentioned before, I have 2 officers that are deployed in the Rhode Island National Guard that are in the Middle East, a sergeant and a patrol officer that are expected to be back at the end of February. I also mentioned earlier the dispatchers. I am short 2 full-time dispatchers and 2 part-time dispatchers. We are currently in a recruitment drive to make an eligibility lift for those positions once the internal bidding process has concluded. As always, we have numerous training and events that we're going to, and as I mentioned, the younger people that I have, supervisory training, executive development course for captains, a mid-level supervisor's course for our lieutenants, criminalistics, forensic course for our senior detectives, crash reconstruction, internal affairs investigation, risk management, and we're coming up on our in-service block of training at the end of February to redo our first aid, CPR, legal updates, bias-based policing, intelligence gathering, domestic violence protocols, and some others that are required of us on an annual or semi-annual basis. We continue with our firearms qualifications and recertifications in our less lethal weapons. We're due for reaccreditation from the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission. We have our mock assessment all day tomorrow and our full one coming up in March. We've had our community policing efforts. Some of the ones that we've participated in most recently are Friday Night's Lights outside of Hasbro, Coaches versus Cops flag football game up at the high school, the Trunk or Treat event at River Point Park, the Spookathon at the Civic Center, Scouting Heroes Night at outside of Christ the King Church, Touch a Truck events. We had a couple of those and a few others. Some calendar year statistics that I have here listed that I sent to you for 2017 and 18 compared to 2019. Calls for service have been steady for the last 3 years, between 31 and 32,000 calls for service a year. Our arrests are up slightly this year, a little over 1,400. Offense reports or investigations are essentially equal, around 2,500. Crash reports have been pretty standardly around 900 a year, 863 for this year, and traffic violations are up significantly this year, slightly over 4,600, primarily because we have officers on staff now, and they can dedicate the time to some problemed hotspots.
It's a 40-some% increase, chief.
Well, last year was a bad one. We were down eight people, and everybody was working 16 hours, so
Well,
some things tend to suffer.
Well-
And we don't have the extra people to work those extra directed assignments either.
Well, I'm sure the fifth line helps the fourth line with crash reports. I mean, that's dropped too by about 10-15%, so.
Right. Some of the hot topic items for the year. We all now have Rhode Island RI.org email accounts that facilitate efficient communication between us. Our website has been upgraded, and we've been much more active on social media such as Facebook and Twitter. Our fleet is in acceptable conditions. I have 4 cars that have been on order since September that I'm waiting on that keep getting delayed from Ford. I'm hoping to get an update on them tomorrow. Our animal control unit has been functioning reasonably well. We have a temporary ACO that's been assigned to fill those duties, and he's doing a fabulous job. To go along with the excellent work he's doing, we've done last year we did a lot of major facility upgrades. DPW assisted us with some sheetrock replacement and painting. We also had new HVAC unit installed there, upgrade to electrical service, and electrical efficient equipment were installed, in addition to the fencing replaced on all the pens. So it's much cleaner and more safe and efficient now.
And by the way, that's another area that we've drastically improved on. We get a lot of compliments, and the individual also, which is Paul. He's getting a lot of compliments, and they think he does a phenomenal job with the animals. And, you know, like I said, nothing but compliment about him. Even from, not even the organizations that volunteer down there, but private citizens who have gone in there to deal, pick up their pet or whatever, have given compliments on him.
I definitely concur with that. As you all know, the second school resource officer position was approved. Officer Randall's been assigned to Daring Middle School. He's hit the ground running, very well received so far. He's working on a plan to hopefully start some point in the next few months the education component of his job once we finalize which path we want to go.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Certainly.
So when you said you were short 3 sworn officers, one due to the fact that the SRO at Daring Middle School has been filled by this officer, so you need to fill another patrolman at
Right.
this point?
Right. So he came out of
So
the
we
patrol
have
division.
So we have someone at the middle school at this point?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, he's been there since the middle of August. He went up there for training and has gone on.
And due to all the retirements, it's amazing the amount of movement you've had in your department. Who's already detectives, who's already captain, it's amazing, like, how much has gone on there.
And fortunately, they're all very dedicated people. They're all working hard to pick up and get the skills and the education that they need to do their job efficiently. You know, it saves a lot of worry from me, not that I don't worry, but it tends to be the, you know, not the decision-making that I'm worrying about. It's more of the, you know, the critical incidents when my phone rings at odd hours that I cringe that, you know, somebody's injured or whatever. Let's see, facility upgrades. Last year, we replaced the roof on our range. That was partially done with the financial assistance of a state grant sponsored by Representative Jackson. We've installed new signage around for awareness and safety at both front and back of headquarters, at the youth center and at our range and at the animal shelter. We have a fitness facility upgrade project underway between our gym committee and our union to upgrade some equipment and make that a more enjoyable room for the staff to maintain their fitness. I'm hoping to organize and hold a Citizens Police Academy sometime this spring. I believe it's an excellent community awareness tool to showcase our mutual efforts in providing public safety.
Is that going to be similar to the one you did a few years ago that former Councilman Drew took
Yes,
part in?
so again, it's usually the planning and training lieutenant coordinates that, but he's so busy with accreditation. At our last command staff meeting, I asked for someone else to step up to the plate and take that off his hands for the time being. And I do have a volunteer, so I'm going to corner him this week to get that ball rolling. We are wrapping up an extensive IT upgrade to Windows 10 machines. Hopefully, the rest of our machines will all be done by the end of next week. So all of our desktops should be replaced and have the highest level of security and upgrades available. I continue to seek approval from the Department of Transportation to utilize that land across the street for a protected storage area. Since it's been so cold and I can't do any work there anyway, I've kind of put that on the back burner, but I'll try to get that permission in writing so I can get that off and running once the weather breaks and we can actually do something with the ground. Two other points of interest. No Shave November generated a little over $2,300 for pink heels, and of course we engaged in Double Down December, which raised slightly more than $2,200 for Operation Stand Down, and we'll be doing a press release with them at the end of the week between us and the fire department. That was combined from officers paying to not shave and the event that Chief Ferone and I held at the VFW Club. And lastly, that is something that happened the middle of last October. We transitioned to the new uniforms, which I'm wearing tonight. They've been very well received by our people. Again, that was funded through drug forfeiture, and some of the officers elected to get some of their uniform allowance that's due in April fronted to them so they could get adequate supplies. So we're in good shape. We're anticipating a great second half of the fiscal year and a wonderful 2020.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
I have one, and it just, under trainings, and it's kind of, I don't like to get personal up here, but it kind of fits. As you know, I have a son with Downs and autism, and looking at, like, some of the turnover and new patrolmen come in all the time, and they're kind of the face out in the community. Would you foresee trying to get trainings to deal with people, adults at some point where they have triggers that I may be saying this wrong, but they may have triggers that have issues that trigger them, which trying to be politically correct here, which typical people who don't deal with these behaviors all the time may not recognize.
Right.
And that may be including the new young officers coming in.
So two parts of that. First of all, that is actually a class that that's contained within the police academy curriculum. So there is an autism awareness component to that. So they do have that, compounded by the fact that they also have, I mean, we kind of generalize it as mental health training.
Yep.
But essentially it's, mental health first responder training. And we also have to do that annually as part of our certification, recertification process.
Okay.
Exactly the things you said, the simple things of, making sure you have adequate backup there, certain circumstances, having a rescue staged, depending on the nature of, what's being described.
Okay.
Having ample backup there, and appointing one officer to be the primary communicator, perhaps turning their radio off so they're not distracted by the extra noise, nor is the person distracted, so they can kind of pay attention one-on-one and rely on the backup officer to do the extra communication. So to answer your question, yes, there's always room for improvement in training, and obviously we seek it out. We try to get to train the trainers when we can, so we can have in-house staff to handle our people as opposed to sending them around, so we can include it in our own day-to-day processes.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one quick question. Are we gonna get a replacement for the behavioral health navigator?
So we're working with the Providence Center. That was a grant that happened through the CDC and the Department of Health when Heather was here. So their organization has been looking for funding sources, and then, myself and the majors are always looking as well. So we hope to. We're kind of treading water with the staff that we have now, and, she still has committed to come back to West Warwick when we need her, and also her partner from Warwick Police will come help us when we need it.
Cool. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? No. Thank you.
Discussion action, A, discussion regarding Charter Review Committee 2020 to go over the town charter questions for the election ballot, sponsored by Council President Goslin.
All right, I asked to put this on the agenda because this is the year for the charter review. It needs to be ready in timeline. It would have to be done before is it 60 days before the election, because it has to be put on the ballot? Or,
As much time as possible, but usually, if the clerk can contact the Board of Elections, they'll give her the exact time
just
that they
talking
need,
to the mic?
that they need to have it printed on the ballot. So since this is gonna be on the November ballot, my suggestion is to appoint it next month on the first meeting in February, and then let them set out their course of meetings so they can have something back to the council within enough time that it's gonna be approved and then get it on the ballot.
And again, this is, the council has to appoint these individuals to be on this committee. Does it say how many individuals?
Usually, you're
Five
better,
to seven,
you're
or-
better off with an even number, but I don't think it's exact. Look at it a moment.
I think it's 5 to 7.
Has anybody applied yet?
No, we would actually
we-
You
solicit.
just
We-
appoint, we ask, yeah.
We would probably.
9
solicit-
members, Mr. President, 9 members.
Yeah, I thought it was an odd number, so nine members, and the reason why it's odd is they do vote on things, and if you have an even, it's 4 to 4, it's a no.
Right.
So that's why they have odd. Again, there's 5 of us, we can discuss a list of names, but if you have a list of names, I would say put it on for the second meeting in February, but we can maybe discuss a list of names the first meeting in February, that are willing and wanting to be on. And it doesn't mean you only have to have one. If you have a couple of names, we as a council can discuss that and see who we
We'll
want.
discuss qualifications, like of who, like who can be on the board, like if they're,
Is it by party or anything?
You can only have 5, up to 5 of one political party.
Yeah, so that I do remember,
So, question on that. I'm an independent, so
separate party.
that's counted as a party?
No, it's not, because if you had 3 independents, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, you're fine. You just can't have 5 Republicans. You could have 5 independents because you're not a political party.
Okay.
So we can, that's the other thing we gotta keep in, is the affiliation of the individual.
Do we have any information as far as when they meet, how often they meet?
Well, that's something they can
Once
discuss.
Once you appoint, they would put all
They
that
would-
together.
they would-
They decide that. They would get together one meeting and say, hey, we think Tuesdays and Thursdays work for us. I do
Okay.
have 2 or 3 people in mind. And again,
So there's really no parameters?
no, there's no parameters. What you want is somebody who knows the charter, read the charter, understands the charter, or is going to read the charter and understand what the charter means.
Okay.
That way they're, and the town clerk has, you have a couple of copies of that in the office, right? So if whoever's on there, they get a copy of it, and they can work through that.
and each potential change is its own referendum item on the ballot?
Come November, yes.
Yes, okay.
And there could be a lot of changes, because a lot of it does say mayor, 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 so there could be a lot of changes to town manager instead of mayor, that was pointed out to us. A few things, and it is inadequate, some of it needs to be changed, it's been almost 10 years now. So,
2010 last time.
what's that?
2010 was the last time.
2010, so yeah, here we are, 10 years later. So again, all kidding aside, let's put it, I know I have a couple people in mind I've shared with one of 2 of you, and I'm gonna reach out to those individuals in the next week, and if they're willing to do it, I have no problem bringing their names back before this council.
That would be for the first meeting in February.
First meeting in
You wanna do that?
February. That way, it gives us 3 weeks to
Is
talk it
there,
over.
is there a method for people who are watching this, sitting in the audience, if they want to?
Reach out to your councilman, or reach out to whoever you want to reach out to up here on the council. We could put your names down, and then bring it back.
And are there any prohibitions about people who work in the town, people who, do you have to live in the town? Tell me,
You have to be an elector.
You have to
Thank
be
you.
in the town, yes.
okay, so.
That's the key
there-
word,
there-
elector.
There are,
You have
yes,
to be registered to vote.
yes.
That makes you an elector.
I know, but I'm just asking, just to clarify.
Sometimes you
for
ask
everybody.
that question when you know
You've
the
gotta
answer.
ask, you've
That's
gotta
right.
ask the question when you know the
Not citizen, elector.
Correct.
Still gotta ask. Any other questions on that? February, what is it, the 4th, our first meeting?
You said second meeting, I thought.
We're gonna have the names by the 1st, we can discuss it.
Okay.
Then
Or
say-
at least, let's do it this way, get your names in place, and then, that wouldn't qualify as an exec session, would it?
You could have a special meeting outside, because if you're thinking about the interference with the February holiday, that's gonna come off. But I mean, you could have a special meeting just for that. But as far as executive session, no, because it's gonna be, public anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Do you want a special meeting at this point, or you'll let me know?
What's our first meeting in February? Fourth? It is the fourth. So let's just have your names in place, and we can share those names. We don't have to, put that on the agenda per se. We could just put a list of names together, and then we can have that on for the second meeting in February. Any concerns with that?
We're gonna have second meeting.
So then we'll approve each name in that meeting, the second meeting of February.
Or we can go February 4th, discuss all the names, and we could
then-
discuss
and then
amongst all of us here in
Well, I mean,
public.
there's potential that you're gonna have 15 names and there's only 9 slots.
Yes.
That's
so
what I
then we're
mean,
gonna
that's what I mean,
So-
yeah, okay.
If,
So-
if the charter says 9, does it say up more than 9? Does
Says
it
nine.
say 9 exactly? Could it be?
And again, I might bring
I
somebody's
know it
name,
says
I
nine.
might bring somebody's name before this council
Right.
that the council doesn't agree with, but if there's 3 people that agree
Correct.
with it,
Correct.
then so be it. But if 3 people are against it, then so be it. But
What, 9 members?
I don't know. everybody's gonna
Electors,
be-
residents.
Okay.
But I would suggest the 4th to, if you're gonna put because you're gonna make sure the agenda is set, that doesn't have to be tabled.
So we could just put possible candidates for,
Potential candidates for
potential candidates
charter review.
for charter review, and they could just put their
Discussion,
names on.
action, and then if you wanna have a special meeting the following week, just to
To
put that
appoint
together?
But if we need to.
If we need to, yeah.
Right.
All right.
Well, just because of the time constraints.
Yes.
So we should get the names
Before
prior to the,
February 4th.
okay.
And have them ready,
So they can be on the
have
agenda.
them put on the agenda, so actually you have less time. You
That's
have
what
till
I'm
the
saying.
Thursday before that meeting,
Correct.
because Paul is gonna need those names.
Well, I mean, is that too soon? That gives, what is today?
Gives you 2 weeks.
Well,
So,
not-
I mean, I'm gonna ask for the individual's phone numbers.
No,
Tonight.
it doesn't give us 2 weeks. I mean, it's gotta be on the agenda by next
10 days.
next Wednesday.
10 days.
So that's a vote, right? This is for the list of potential
have-
candidates to discuss.
Not
Second meeting is to
necessarily a
vote.
vote. No,
Not
it's just a
necessarily
list of,
discussion.
Just
yeah,
a list
just
of potential
discussion.
candidates.
Yep,
And the second meeting is,
formation of
Also,
the
You
charter
might just
review
find 9,
committee.
who knows?
Right.
You might find 7. You gotta,
Right.
it is a lot of commitment for a good 6 months. I know the last time they met in 2010, they worked on it for about 4 to 6 months, a couple of nights a week sometimes. When they really started getting in, I think Sean Hensler, Peter Kelsey.
Sean was the chairman.
Yeah,
Sean
Sean
was the chairman.
Hensler was the chairman at the time. He was on the committee. He was one of my appointments for Ward 2. And, being a lawyer, being, very involved in the community, I chose him, but maybe this time it's somebody different.
So a 6-month commitment between March and September?
Yeah, because.
No, don't say it that way, because remember, you gotta go back from the first week of November to get it on the ballot, so you do try to concise the time between, say, February through maybe July, possibly into
July,
August.
August, yeah.
That too, yeah.
Lawyers are playing dumb, is that what I just heard? I think that's what I heard, I got
thought it was
the line.
lawyers are just plain dumb, just plain dumb.
That's what I heard.
What are you gonna do?
All right, next.
Narcan distribution program. The West Warwick Fire Department will be initiating, sponsored by Councilwoman Williamson.
I received a call from Chief Varone late last week about putting this on the agenda. We have the opportunity to participate in a program with the Health Equity Zone, Thunder Mist, and Behavioral Health Department and the Hospital Department. It would allow us to give Narcan kits to residents here, and I'll let you describe the process, the cost, and some of the statistics that are quite sobering.
Okay, yeah, so I did send out to the council some of the statistics that we became aware of. Colonel Knott and I are part of an organization. It's the West Warwick Overdose Prevention and Recovery Work Group. The chairwoman, Kathy Schultz, is here. If you have any questions, she'd be happy to come up and answer any questions. So we look back at the data for 2018, and the West Warwick Fire Department responded to 76 calls that were categorized as an overdose or drug overdose or poisoning. In 2019, that was up 32% to 98 calls. We were able to also go back through our data and find out that we administered in 47 different incidences Narcan, and that was during 2018. During 2019, that number had gone up to 78 times. So that is a 66% increase in the administration of Narcan in the town of West Warwick. So at the work group, there were a bunch of different suggestions that were put out how we could maybe help, and one of the things was to be able to give Narcan out. So you talked earlier about the health advocate that was, and she had Heather, right? Had a leave behind program. So no one's filling that void right now. We're on scene at the overdoses, so it would make sense that we will be the ones to leave behind Narcan if we can. So
if you were to go to a call for an overdose, you would leave one behind.
we can leave one behind.
With the family,
Depending on where,
yeah.
if it's a family member or somewhere where we think that individual would be able to use the Narcan in the future, we can leave behind a Narcan. In addition to that, to make it more accessible for those people who might think that they need it, we'll have them at the stations, and people could come to the station, and we'd show them how to use the Narcan and what the limitations of the Narcan are.
So, Chief, I've unfortunately have seen somebody revived with Narcan. If we're leaving that behind for a family member, is that family member prepared for what could happen when that person comes out of that high? There's sometimes it takes, I know police and fire have to sometimes strap these individuals down before even hitting them with the Narcan, because they know the results. So, and I know you're saving their life, but.
Right,
that's. So Dave Goslin sits there and hits somebody with Narcan, and that person pops up. There could be a lot of, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, so that is something that we would talk with the members about, the individuals that come up to get the Narcan. You know, that they do become upset. Most of the time, it's my witness that they're upset that you wrecked their high. So more than anything else, but they can become violent, and you know. Yeah, come on up, Kathy. That's absolutely.
And actually, Chief Barone, I thought when we spoke that this is not injectable, this is nasal?
It's a nasal spray. It is not injected. So.
Hi, everybody. So I'm a Narcan trainer, and I'm also, I was a former outreach worker, and I have trained thousands of people throughout the state for Narcan training. One of the myths is that a lot of people think that people come out and they're very combative. I've also gotten a lot of use reports, and I have not seen so much of that. What it mostly is that if you take somebody out of it, they're unconscious, they're barely breathing, and then you administer Narcan, they all of a sudden can breathe. So they're startled. And as far as the Narcan training, the same training that I give, as well as EMS, police, or whoever gives the Narcan training, that is all discussed. So they are very aware of what it looks like when somebody comes out of a overdose.
And I apologize, you just state your name for the record.
It's Kathy
Your
Schultz.
position.
And I can't breathe because I got nervous. Sorry. So I'm with the West Warwick Health Equity Zone. I'm the manager, but I'm also the chair of the Overdose Prevention Work Group.
It's important to note that I mean, you can't hurt somebody by giving it to them, provided, I mean, because I know you guys typically administer it, and you don't necessarily know.
Yeah,
I mean,
but there are no contraindications for the use of Narcan.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too is the Narcan that's being provided through the HES was purchased through BHDDH, the SOAR funding, and that is actually what the state, for the director of the Department of Health is actually encouraging everybody to carry Narcan.
So what this is also gonna do with the fire departments being open, and this is something that I've made my mission in West Warwick, if you haven't heard about all the stuff that happens at the HES recently, is it's also gonna help to break stigma, and it's also gonna help so that the residents of West Warwick can have a place to go where it can kind of break the stigma that exists between EMS, between the police departments, and build a friendlier community, you know, so that everybody feels comfortable with one another and we all combat this in the same way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Is there a shelf life for this?
About 18 months. The kits that he has right now expire April 2021. And it's okay if it's expired.
Okay.
We won't pass it out once it's expired, but it's okay.
So if somebody has it in their home and uses it after that 18 months?
It just loses potency.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the training as well.
So is the training mandatory?
Yes, everybody on the job will get trained.
Nope, when you leave
When
under
you
the
leave it
house.
behind.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes,
you,
we'll just go
so
over it.
you respond on a particular evening to an event, you don't leave it then? Because, I mean,
Oh,
you're
no,
not.
we would leave
but
it
they're
then.
not
It's not,
trained.
it's not that long, it's not like, it's,
Okay,
If you want further information about the regulations around Narcan are a lot different than regulations around other prescription drugs.
Okay.
Because of the fact that the Department of Health and the director are actually encouraging that.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, even the lock boxes, they're actually encouraging and they want to start having the
Working
lock
on that
boxes
now.
in the public, and that would not involve a training. There is always a slip inside each box.
But how to
There's a
use it,
little bit of
okay.
training.
Chief, I have a question on your statistics. Just curious, have you gone out to 100 calls where people have overdosed?
yes.
Overdose, all I'm thinking is, somebody's on drugs, they're in the middle of Crompton or Arctic or, and somebody calls in, somebody's passed out on drugs. Are you going to homes or are you going on the streets? Or how, what does 100 calls mean?
It could be any of them, okay? And there is limitation, any data, there are limitations. So, you know, some of the overdose calls that we go to, we're not administering Narcan at. And then other calls that might be categorized as person unconscious, they might get there and realize that it's an overdose, and we might be using Narcan on those runs.
When you
Okay,
say a run,
so-
is the run to like a public place, is it to a
It could be
house,
either.
or-
It could be a residence, it could be a multifamily, it could be a car in a parking lot, it could be just someone on the side of the road. So there's no specific or, you know, or singular response.
Okay.
One of the statistics that you gave me was that we had 14 deaths. And when you
So
do it per
in-
capita,
In 2018,
Right.
we had 14 deaths from, and again, you talk about data limitations.
Correct.
This is residents of West Warwick.
correct.
Okay? So, seeing that we have just over 29,000 people, when you multiply that out with a community like the city of Providence that has 178,000 people, okay? It's about 6 times what we are. If you multiply the 14 times 6, like about 84, and they had 85 deaths, and that was, I believe, the highest percentage. So we're right up there with the highest percentages when you.
Scary.
Yeah,
That's very scary. So I think it is a good program.
you know, so, okay.
Any questions for the chief?
What do you need from us?
Well,
Just, is this
nothing right now.
informational only?
The
Is
funding
it-
is like Kathy said, through the SOAR program from the Rhode Island Department of Health's Behavioral Health and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Buddha, yeah.
Okay, Buddha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where everything is coming from.
So this is
Okay?
informational and you're gonna start it tomorrow?
We will start it as soon as we can, yes. So we'll have a little kickoff. We'll try and get some media to come, just so we get the word out. And
And you have
that's
to
where we're at.
prove West Warwick residency to get
Now,
a kit.
the other thing is, we have to do the training, too.
Yeah.
So we have to get our guys trained to be able
Okay.
to deliver the training. And after that's completed, then we'll get the media. So it's not going to, you know, it's not going to be tomorrow.
And you have to be a West Warwick resident to get that kit when they show up next door?
Oh, we would like them to be, we're not going to deny anyone, but
Okay.
yes, you know, it's kind of, you know, that's a goal.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
But not required.
No.
Thank you, Chief.
The feasibility of the town of West Warwick's entrance into the state of Rhode Island Municipal Employee Retirement System Pension Plan, MERS.
I actually asked that this be put on the agenda, and I will keep it on the agenda until we come to where we're gonna be, just to keep updates. So, Ernie, if you would give us an update as to where we stand in the process.
At this point, the actuary who works for the retirement system has reached out to the town requesting the information necessary to start the evaluation. All the information has been supplied that the actuary has asked for, to my knowledge, so they should have everything. And at this point, probably just ask specific questions arrive at. So they will have the information necessary to start the study. And again, you know, what they're going to be doing is looking at our system, the MERS system. I believe they're going to be applying the MERS assumptions to whatever analysis that they do, because the study would see if there is a pathway to MERS, so obviously they're going to use their assumptions. And you know, the actuary will build a model based upon our information in the MERS system, and then run various scenarios as to you know, what potential plans could look like. So that's going to be done. I wouldn't want to give a date, but you know, once they build a model, then it's just running different scenarios that may look possible.
Could you actually reach out to the actuary just to make sure, because I'm not sure you personally handle it, that he has everything, or they have everything that they need?
Yes, I emailed the principal from the accounting firm, from the actuary today.
Okay.
And asked him if he had everything that he needed for the evaluation, so I'm sure he'll be responding tomorrow.
And then maybe you can follow up with how long they might think it will take them
I
to
will
get it
ask
done,
him.
just so they know there is a sense of urgency.
Yes.
And with that urgency also comes legislation, and if we need legislation, I know I've spoken to 2 different legislators that are willing to put this legislation in for us, but, you know, they don't want you to wait till May.
We would work through,
so.
the treasurer's office and in conjunction with our local representation.
And you also can have legislation posted that can be amended just to keep the
Correct.
spot.
Correct.
So that's the question, do we want to start getting that prepared soon?
I had a conversation with the treasurer late last week, and he said that he thought that most of the information was available to his actuary, but he is monitoring it as well.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you for staying on top of that. I know it's near and dear. Any other update on that? We're all set?
Thank you.
Upcoming appointments. Sewer Use Appeals Board, 1 alternate member with a term to expire on 10/20/21. 2 for a term to expire 10/20/20, 1 term to expire 10/20/22. Board of Tenant Affairs, 1 term to expire on 2/20/21 public, 1 term to expire on 11/20/21 public, and 1 term to expire on 3/20/22. Recreation Committee, 2 full members. Pension Board, 1 term to expire 11/18/2020, 1 term to expire 11/18/2021, and 1 term to expire 11/18/2022. Public comment. Designated portion of Town Council's open meeting for citizens to address comments to the Town Council relating to matters affecting the public business. Comments will only be addressed to the Town Council who will take them under advisement. When addressing the Town Council, please state your name and address. Please conduct yourself in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of our meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested. Members of the Town Council, being duly elected public body, as identified in Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-2, 3, have no obligation to respond to public comment.
Any public comment? Alan, come on up, state your name for the record.
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick, and I have a couple of issues. One, at the last meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard the Director of Public Works comment that yard waste would no longer be picked up, and that Christmas trees effective the
January
22nd.
22nd on the Christmas
day.
trees.
Right.
The yard waste, I haven't, you know, the way I interpret it was effective immediately. The question I have is, when are the citizens of this town going to be notified of that fact? I've talked to several of my neighbors. They were clueless, maybe a code red message, something like that telling people, because many people don't have vehicles to transport yard waste to
So
Junior
unfortunately, it is
Street.
on our website that when usually the last pickup of the year is scheduled. That is on the West Warwick, not the town of West Warwick, but the DPW's website for,
Not a lot of people check the DPW website. I mean, I drove around today, and there was all kinds of trash out in my area. It's usually Tuesday. They weren't aware of the one-day delay, but I would suggest something to get the word out. Mr. Willett has done a fantastic job, but on that particular issue, the citizens need to be notified
No,
in a timely manner.
and again, even if we send it out red alert, like you said, not everybody's on that, so only whoever's on it.
It's much better
But
than
at
just
least they get the
checking.
information. Totally agree with you, I'm not disagreeing. We gotta do a better job of telling people when the last pickup is, and also when we're open to drop them off. I still have to tell people first and third Saturdays, we're open for a drop-off if you need to. And they're not aware of it. People who live right next to it, not even aware of it. I'm like, you can just throw it over your fence on a Saturday if you wanted to, just,
I just put it out as a PSA because, as I said, I checked with my neighbors and they were clueless.
I've had the same. I think with the weather this year, though, it's been so strange with the early snow, then the freeze. Then we had a 60-degree day, last week? So
People cleaning
wanna
up.
get out and,
Yeah.
you know, let me get to it, I couldn't before, and when's the town coming?
Okay.
thank you, Alan.
No problem. Now to the business at hand regarding the Factory Street Playground. This is the 30th anniversary of the ADA. I touched on it tangentially at the last meeting. 2 items. I said I wasn't going to cover the deficiencies. The Governor's Commission had sent an email to the town, failed to receive a response, and according to them, they were required to send a registered letter to the town to elicit a response. I sent something today because, by my calculations, the 10th business day was today from the first email, and that first email should have put the town on notice as to what was happening. The first 4 items were to have been completed by the end of 2019. I had sent something to the Governor's Commission, I believe it was the 5th, saying that only 1, the signage, had been completed out of the first 4. There was 1 that was partial and 2 hadn't been touched. I understand that there is a temporary speed bump in place. However, the area with regard to the gate, the 5-foot requirement on either side, that has not been fulfilled. I'm not sure if you guys have looked at the landscape designer for items 5, 6, and 7 for that. So I'll leave it to you to check on that. The other item that I brought up was the discrepancy between the RFP bid numbers and the check that was actually cut. And as Mrs. Williamson pointed out, that's a $10,000 discrepancy. As a taxpayer, I take issue with the way this town is spending money. I recommended that somebody look into it. I see items for discussion. However, that's not being covered.
So Alan, let me just correct you on that. Actually, earlier this week, I know after the last couple of meetings, I met with Mark Carullo. I've asked him to give us, the council, a detailed information. He actually sent us out detailed information. I requested backup also, so the council should have received that sometime early last week, and we can look at it a little further as we're getting the information, and we're actually going to discuss it next meeting, because we just got all the information this week.
I would suggest that you definitely look at it, because I've seen documentation that backs up my assertion, and as we used to say at the War College, I would say Bravo Sierra Bingo on this one, because you definitely need to take a look at the way we spend money. $90,000 roughly, $45,000 is $135,000. The check was cut for $145,600. So, you know, that's some money on there. As I said, I've seen it. Hopefully you'll see it. And you need to look into it because as a taxpayer, I object to the way we spend money. I haven't heard Mr. Cottrell talk about his street in a while. Maybe he'll raise the issue. But, you know, every time it rains really hard, I always see posts of the water rushing down in his area. I believe $1.5 million was spent for that. And he can correct me because he doesn't have a clue that I'm raising this issue. But, I mean, how are we spending money and why? And you people need to get a handle on it, okay? I noticed that the leak on New London Avenue is stopped. I'm not sure if it's serendipitous or what happened, but it stopped, and I'll take it for grant. You know, that's really good. However, as I said, $1.5 million for that street, and I'm not sure the status of it, but every time it rains hard, I see pictures of water. You could go wading in it. $10,000 on the playground. There are major issues here, and I contacted the Governor's Commission today saying they needed to take a look at it and either refer it to the Attorney General's office, the DEM, or the Rhode Island State Police to see what is going on with what happened in that particular case and possibly others. You people have been made aware of it. If you look the other way, in my estimation, you're equally culpable as those who made this happen. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Yes, I spoke with the Assistant ADA Coordinator for the Governor's Commission, and we are not in violation of any deadline to respond to the inquiries. They sent an email, I don't know, first week maybe, I forget the date, I didn't bring my file, because they were told one item was done out of the 4, and they did a site inspection, that was not correct. It was like 3.5, 4, whatever it was, but the information they got was not correct. So we got a letter asking for an update on the issues. The only item of the 4 that's not completed is a ramp by the a sidewalk by the gate. And I spoke with them today about different types of solutions to that issue. Again, we're in the winter, cold months, so some solutions will not work and others will. So we had a conversation, and the response would be generated to them by Thursday. So we're not in compliance with, we are in compliance with their discussion.
Going back to your email, January 7th to the council, you had 4 items there that were listed. Install signage at gate, indicated gate opens out, completed. Frequent raking the wood chips to the level out the gullies and mounds. The playground was raked. Speed bumps were, install speed bump in the parking lot close to the entrance to the playground. Speed bumps were ordered. I have been advised today that the Recreation Department has some speed bumps. They were going to put down a temporary one. Obviously, that's what's done. The Director of Public Works has some concerns about installing these during the winter season. He'll be present this evening. That was, again,
Right.
Mid-January.
Right.
And then raise the gate and widen the leveling path within 5 feet. The gate was raised and swinging easily. The leveling of the path with a firm surface has not been done. The firm level of surface would be asphalt and unavailable. This would be done in accordance with the improvements this spring.
Right.
And again, you stated that some individuals are out to help us, the city of Warwick and whoever, and you said that we are complying.
Right, and again, after the meeting, a letter was generated by the Governor's Commission, and I responded, and I indicated that these items would be done, and I also indicated a comment about the walkway. that may be something that we'd want the person who is going to do this design work to comment on as well. So I think we've done what we said we were going to do, and I will first of all say these items could have been done earlier and should have been done earlier.
Actually, the end of your email says, I have received an email today from Denise Wilhelm.
Yep.
Saying she was advised the only one of the items has been done and completed, and requested a plan from a licensed landscape architect to be submitted within 10 business days. The information she was given was incorrect. I will contact her later today. And that was, so.
I
January
called and left a
7th.
message.
That was our update to us.
Right, and then a site inspection was done where they confirmed there was more done than they had anticipated. And they wanted this outline and plan within 10 business days, which we would comply with, and we're putting that together. And I spoke to her today, and Thursday was fine, and that's what our goal is, to send it out. So I think we're doing what we need to do to resolve the situation.
So she's okay without, so we haven't submitted a plan from a licensed landscape architect
Well, no,
yet?
basically, it's going to, no, we don't have it yet, but we're going to outline how we're going to get there. And then, once we have that plan, then we'll, put the cost in. It's a process.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to go
Yep.
through, like any process, is how do we get to the end? And we're going to get to the end where we have a plan. We'll have the items and materials that we need, and see what the cost is, and if it's amount that we can order, we order. If we have to have 3 bids, we get 3 bids. If we have to have council approval, we'll get council approval. But again, there is a process, an orderly process that will be done, and we are committed to do that.
I have a question for you regarding this. There's been all talk about the $10,000 discrepancy in a check. For whatever reason, there's $10,000 that was paid to the contractor that may or not should have been, it might have been on the mark. Can you look into that?
Yes. Right now, the task I have is to, do the plan and submit it. Yes, certainly that's part of my
I believe that
responsibility.
there's a
I will.
reason for everything, so it might be something very simple, but just to clear it up so we can just move on.
I'm not sure that the documentation that we've received so far gives us a clear answer as to what happened. So I think we do need to know, and I would suggest, again, that we just have it as a discussion item until we get it rectified. That way we don't miss it. And that way we save Mr. Palazzo's steps coming up here and asking for it.
And again, one of the reasons why
I know you want
I
people's
was
steps in,
requesting all
but
this information behind the scenes.
Correct.
And asking for it. We received partial the information 2 weeks ago. I wanted further information.
Right.
I wasn't gonna come here, discuss it in public when we had no information.
That's correct.
Right.
That's useless for us. It doesn't
And
do
that's
good.
not fair until
And
we.
it's not fair to
that's
the
right.
public, it's not fair
Nope.
to us.
But I
So
just think we
asked
should
for further information.
get it
But
done
if
and
it's
move
odd,
on.
we won't
you know.
forget it. We'll
Don't
ask the
disagree.
question, we'll have an update at every meeting until we get it rectified.
Do I need to state my name again?
No.
Okay, just a point of order. The town manager just impugned my integrity. And that initial email to the Governor's Commission, and I believe I CC'd you on it, there were photographs there. It was rejected by her, and I had to send them together because the file was too large for the state inboxes. However, I sent pictures taken that Saturday, I believe it was. It was a bright sunny day, and it showed the deficiencies, okay? As I stated in that email, one was done, the signage on the gate. The chips, there were still gullies. It's not being raked as it should be. The speed bump, the 4th of December, I believe, was the meeting. The 4th of January, how long does it take to put a speed bump in? Because I'm assuming it's just a rubber strip with regard
They
to
were looking
the,
at permanent ones
yeah, I
for
think-
asphalt, so they were concerned about doing that in the cold weather.
oh, I have no problem with that. However, the statement that, we're working on it, to me, is ingenuous. With regard to the area around the gate, I see coal patch going around all the time. I know you want a permanent solution, but when the town says it's going to do something and it doesn't, and then I have the town manager come up here and state that my email was incorrect.
Well, he didn't say your email. Your name's nowhere in here.
No, I'm the one. I acknowledge it. If I put something,
You just informed us of that, but none of us knew that.
I don't know that.
I
You sent it.
believe,
You said he.
I sent
You
the
sent it
email.
to
I
us.
said it, exactly.
But again-
And I back up anything I put. I always say, research it, check it out. I acknowledge and am accountable for what I put out there. And I stated it, and to have my integrity questioned, I don't think so. And I'm laying that on the line.
I would assume that town manager did not intend to do that. It's a question of, and we are asking and do want information. We'll put it on the agenda. We will follow it.
I understand that, but to say that my assertions were incorrect and whoever's assertion was incorrect
Alan, the day you
is
were out there,
disingenuous.
Would you have known the gate was raised?
Excuse me?
The day you were out there, would you have known physically that the gate was raised?
Yes, I did. I tested it. I went out there and went through everything. However, you still need that 5-foot,
I'm not arguing
60-inch section in front of the gate. I will go through the ADA. I have friends who are in wheelchairs. I'm very sensitive to this. And I saw a post one time, someone said, well, the issues you're raising this was on social media, who would even know? The response is, the little kid in the wheelchair would know. And that's all that matters to me.
Thank you.
I'm under the impression that you don't have the information
Just
that you
state your,
asked for.
just state your.
John Reed, 62 Andrews Ave. All right, I probably have all the information and then some, okay? But it's not so much the deficiencies that happen, it's the progress that got you there. Like you just said, you need to get a landscaping plan. And that should have been number one from the planning department, okay? So now we're starting at the back end and going forward. If anybody read through the RFP, you can probably go get your money and have this done by the contractor you awarded it to, because it's in the verbiage. Only problem is, he wasn't supplied with a proper plan to do the work. So who can challenge his work when there wasn't a plan that was submitted that was certified? The only plan you're gonna see is a rendering from the playground equipment company. It says right now, it's a rendering. So this all goes back to your planning department, all right? Are you any aware of a certified payroll?
Certified payroll, what do you mean?
When you have a contractor, do work for a municipality, okay? A DPW project, Title 37, Mr. Williamson will fill you all in on it, okay? You have to turn in certified payroll because it's prevailing wage job. I have response from the clerk, from whatever department she got it from, and she's been very diligent on getting our information. Somewhere, people do not know what certified payroll is. It's a state law. You cannot do a prevailing wage job for a municipality, especially when it's tied to a grant, and if you back up the grant, it's gonna come down to federal funds supported the grant, which only gets it in deeper. And, I have a whole folder, I wasn't gonna bring it here because I'm tired of being a secretary. That's a certified payroll form. Okay? Now, you people, I don't expect to know this, but the people you have running your departments, running the town for you, should not have you listening to me about foolish things like certified payroll. Now, the procedure that was done here is the most bizarre thing I've seen in my life, almost. Do you know that the building permit was issued after the guy got the check? Okay? It's all dated through the paperwork that you're supposed to get. And I don't think you're gonna get it, or you may have to come to me to get the paperwork. That's how confident I am of your source. All right? So, We got by the certified payroll, which means if nobody knows, you probably got project after project with no certified payroll, which is supposed to be turned into you, and you are supposed to make sure it's certified and get it back to the originator, which would be DEM. Now, if the contractor didn't pay prevailing wage, and you as a municipality didn't pick up on it, good luck with the Department of Taxation and Business Regulation. But that's not you, that's the people that work for you. And if they work for me, they really wouldn't have a job at all. Because I said here one time, and I was very sarcastic about it, but it kind of turns out to be true. Some of these people couldn't run a hot dog stand if Oscar Minor gave them the wieners, and they proved it to me. Now, let's get back to this timeline, okay? Also in the RFP, there was indications of people saying the $10,000 was typos. There was fencing that wasn't included, and there was ground cover that wasn't included. They were included in the RFP 2 or 3 times. The other bidder, Green Acres, he learned how to add, okay? 1 and 2 equal 3. The one that was awarded, 1 and 2, comes up $10,000 over. But if you look on his application for his building permit, which if you're awarded a number, okay, you had to know that he had this contract before he went for building permit, okay? He put on the building permit, estimated price was $135,600. Isn't that a little strange? That at that point this guy knew it was $135,600? I find that strange, okay? Because that's the numbers that add up, except for when the check comes out. Now, the inspections were done after the job was paid for. Okay? And I could go on and on and on. But I think you people need to figure out how to go and get the answers you need. And I'm not being sarcastic. If you don't get all the answers, come see me. I got them all, and I don't think you're gonna get them. But there's another question that just kind of bothers me. The guy got paid January 11th, okay? From here, and he's from out of town, he went to Citizens Bank and cashed the check, and I got the check. Why would somebody get a check on the same day, you go to Citizens Bank and cash it? Maybe he had to, I'm being sarcastic, drop off an envelope maybe? Oh, jeez. Come on. I mean, there's possibilities. I'm not saying, but it's a possibility. I just find that weird. If I'm gonna pick up a check for $145,000, I don't think I'm gonna run over to see and cash it. I don't think I'm gonna do that. And also, an error on somebody's part. We have all kind of crazy redaction when you ask for documents here. The same document, because sometimes you could ask for it twice, because the originator doesn't know what paperwork you're asking for. It comes in redacted. But then you go and ask for it again, and it comes in unredacted. So, but the one thing that you should make sure of, when you hand out copies of checks like I requested for, somebody should take the account number off. Because every check that I got from this town, I know the account numbers. Don't you think that's a little ridiculous in this day and age? And I know you're all looking at me like I'm nuts. There's a lot more than this than just a playground. It's issue after issue, and you people take the heat for it because you do not follow through or get rid of the dead wood you got here causing you trouble. In a quick instant, I already did a perfect report for you people on 4143 Industrial Lane. You know what happened there last week, okay? Did you see what the state police said about the possible bomb that was in there from the oils and the propane gas? There's never been any inspections there. And now he won't even answer emails. You have a fiduciary duty, okay? Which all of you don't seem to understand, and maybe your counselor can explain it to you. If a law is broken, is brought to your attention, if there's a serious violation to health or welfare that's brought to your attention, and you do nothing about it, you are liable. Check with them, okay? We told you about the inspections there. It was proven. There was never nothing done except for a general inspection. A CO was given, we could go on and on. If something had happened, what would happen to the town? It's already documented, you didn't do what you're supposed to. Not you, I'm talking about the departments. Did anybody ever look at the bottom of an inspection report? It says whatever may be missed can be brought back up. I've yet to see that happen. And I just got the information today. The electricity had to be changed in those buildings. Propane tanks had to be added to those buildings because the place uses natural gas. There were never any permits pulled. Maybe you should send the fire inspector to find out what refits were done down there with no permits done and go into something else on that property. And you know why I got the thing for that property. Okay? It cost me 80 grand already. There is not one single entity down there that has a business license from you. Don't we find that strange? This is the same corporation that you didn't, not all, but I'm just saying in general, gave a tax break to? The place is as illegal can be, unless it's under the Williamson Law Act, I don't know. But we've also got 47 pages of DEM violations that have to do with the Patuxent River. You have a Patuxent River Authority that you're in charge of. They've made inquiries and it goes dead. I'm just telling you. Business is business, probably all great people personally, but at the end of the day, do you really think you're going to sit here and not answer for this? And if that building blew up, David, the people knew. What were you going to say? Oh, we never did a fire inspection. They told us. When you got bagged and tagged people coming out of the building, what are you going to do? That's all.
Thanks.
For you. And for you, and I'm not doing this as an insult to anybody, but these are the only two people that I see doing the research. I've given you, and forget him, right? Information, you do nothing with it. But there's other authorities, he'll tell you, he knows because he's doing some looking. You have a lot of state agencies watching you. Thank you, have a good evening.
First of all, with all due respect, we had a moment ago a resident saying that he was upset because an inference was made, he believes, that impugned someone's integrity. But what we've just heard is the same thing, that allegations are being made of money changing hands, and it's very inappropriate. And I can tell you, it is disconcerting when individuals can come up, make all the kinds of accusations,
Prove otherwise.
you know, that make these issues up, or these accusations, very disheartening for anyone in a profession to have to listen to that.
Mr. Goslin, one more point of order with regard to the town manager's assertion. We'll have to look at where we can get money to fix the deficiencies up at the playground. I'm not sure of the specifics, but I was always under the impression that when someone does work for the town, they have to obtain a performance bond. I'm not sure if that was done in this case, how much it was, and if in fact that was released. And from my perspective as a taxpayer, I think that's an area that you should pursue. With regard to his comment just now, with regard to impugning someone's reputation, there's, I think, a huge difference between a private citizen's reputation being impugned and someone bringing something by a public official and someone bringing something forward to you as to possibilities and let it go at that. Thank you. Remember, you work for us, the taxpayers of the town, and not just me. There's 29,000 of us.
Can I ask a question? Not you. Oh, sorry. And I don't want to create a big conversation about this, but one of the things that just came up was, this may be a legal question, I don't know. If somebody is renting out, this could be anybody, renting out to either a citizen or renting out to, in this case, a commercial property, who's responsible for, if somebody's renting out a garage and you have another business storing things in it, who's responsible for what happens there? Is it the owner or is it the person that's renting?
First off, this is not on the agenda, so you can't ask your question because that's not informative to what they were asking.
Okay.
So if you want to ask your building official, who is still, I believe, here, he might be able to answer your question.
All right.
But it's not appropriately before the board. Excuse me, the council.
So perhaps that should be on the agenda also.
You guys could put on whatever you want on the agenda.
Yep.
I don't think it's an agenda item, but.
Well.
All right, I can't ask it tonight.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just,
You can ask
I'll
it-
call the
you can
building
ask it
official
if you
tomorrow.
want.
All right.
Yeah.
Eric Reed, 62 Andrews Ave. I got something tonight, nothing to do with any of that. But I was very moved by something on social media. And I think tonight's the night that I need to bring it to the attention of my council.
Thank you.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna discuss. Actually, I'm not gonna discuss, because there's no discussion. I'm just gonna bring it to your attention. Okay? You don't need one. Now, this is Derek Reed, 62 Andrews Ave speaking, not on behalf of anybody else. But I gotta get this off my chest. It's just, it's not even right. So I wrote this out. Good evening, council, manager, and Madam Clerk. I'm here tonight to address something I think is very concerning and heartbreaking. But I'm gonna start with a brief story of my life first. When I was a child, I looked up to my father. I watched him work. I watched him sweat. I watched him bleed, working to support our family and make sure we never went without a meal or anything we may have needed or sometimes wanted. I always told myself that I'm going to follow in his shadow and one day let him watch me be prosperous. As an older kid, maybe around 12 years old, I started to try to figure out how to make money. Money to buy what I wanted rather than my mom and dad having to buy it for me. So I started to use the lawnmower in the shed. I started by mowing the lawn at our house for chore money. Then it led to a neighbor's house and another neighbor and another neighbor. I mowed these lawns for about 6 years for short money each, along with other odds and ends for people. I saved my money to buy things I wanted and ultimately saved enough money to buy my first truck. From there, I took my truck and my lawnmower and I started mowing lawns around the neighborhood and beyond. While in high school, I decided landscaping was going to be my career. So I borrowed some money, plus my own, to buy some lawn equipment and a small trailer. During my senior year in high school, I started a small business called Reed's Landscaping. While it was still just me, I thought, wow, now I have a name for what could be my dream landscape business. And lo and behold, in 1998, it was incorporated and my dad was my partner. Now let's fast forward to today. This spring season will be 22 years in business, living my dream, and nobody will take that away. So you must be wondering, why is he here telling us this story, and where is he going to go with this? And the answer is going to be this. While I was out snowplowing this past Saturday night, I was notified by multiple people who know my story. And these people informed me that Jay Messier is at it again. So my question is, what now? The answer was, there's a 16-year-old boy who wants to do work for local people to earn money. He wants to save the money to buy his own vehicle and afford his own insurance. So I said, wow, this is me when I was a kid. So I asked, what does this have to do with Messier? The answer was that Messier deleted this boy's post and went ahead and chastised him on Facebook about advertising isn't free on his Facebook pages. You can smile, because I got more for you. So I have his disgusting post in my hand, which I gave to you. That was his response to what a 16-year-old boy had posted, trying to hustle some work to afford for himself. I find this to be disturbing, disgusting, and troubling. Who are you to deny this kid? Who are you to degrade him? And who are you to argue the facts with his father after you chose this route? You are a nobody. You never were, you never will be. It's time for you to go. You don't deserve to be a councilman or a representative of the constituents in Ward 3. You sure as hell are not my representative or my councilman. You can block me on social media, but you can't deny me in person here tonight. But you can rest assured I will be offering my expertise to this boy and help him live his dream. Mr. Messier, you are a disgrace to this town. You are as fake as they come. Everything you touch in this town turns to shit, in your own words, and ends up costing the taxpayers to bail you out. You screwed the drainage project up, in which you stuck your nose into something you are not educated with, but I'll give you this. You weren't alone with that. You were the face of the playground prior to construction, during construction, after construction, until you were confronted and questioned on the accessibility for the handicapped. You are not a councilman to better this town. You're a councilman to better yourself and your profit in your pocket. One more thing, and I'm not going into detail, but you do know, and you know I know, what happened. Why don't you tell this council and the public watching what you did to get thrown out of my, that's right, my handicapped accessible playground, the Impossible Dream, back in 2015, the day after it was vandalized? Okay? Maybe they would like to know exactly what happened back then. Maybe they would like to know what the other side of Jason Messier really is. Have a good night.
Any other public comment? Hearing none?
Excuse me,
Motion to.
What?
President, did you want to close the executive session?
Yes. Yes. Normally I wait till the next meeting, but
Make a difference.
I'll wait till the next meeting.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I'll keep it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
Do you want this? There's only one copy.
I'm gonna ask